The Finance Committee, agenda 1 April 2025. Chairman, myself, Gary Johnson. The other two members of this committee is Malcolm Lavadan and Jules Green. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the other council members as we're sitting as committee of the whole to discuss the budget. This is a work committee, and there will be no action taken at this meeting. All public comments will be welcomed at the public hearing to be held on 8 April 2025. Alexandria City Council meetings and council meetings are broadcast live and may be viewed by the public on Optima Cable Channel 4. A rebroadcast may be viewed on Optima Cable Channel 4 and the City of Alexandria website, www.cityofalexandria.com. Number one, the item is discuss the 2025-26 budget. Mayor proposed budget. A little thing before we get started. Yesterday we had a good meeting. This is part one, this is part two. Today we're gonna kind of limit some of the rabbit holes we went down yesterday. I mean, it's open, it's pretty much informal, but we're gonna we got to talk about stuff that wasn't budget and we went on and on. No question. We're talking about when we stay on something 20, 25 minutes. No, we did just stay a lot.
Yes, sir. We'll keep it moving, Mr. Chairman.
No, we don't have to keep it moving. Just let's keep it budget.
I've just got that hammer for.
Let's keep it budget.
No rabbit hole.
All righty. Mayor?
All right, thank you. I will not send us, Malcolm and I had a lot of discussion, and again, we're being informal, we're saying first names, it's not my normal habit or our guys. I don't want to get in trouble with the chair, but I do want to correct, because I told Malcolm in direct response some guesses about something that's important. The proposed recreation millage, which is the other half of some rabbit hole discussions we had, is 2.234 million is the total for the rec millage. It will have gone up or adjusted itself, as y'all know, when property values and stuff change. You know that we went through that with the public on explaining that. But it was, when voted upon, 2.234 million, and as I reported, half of it goes to the zoo and half of it goes to the other side of all the rec programs. So roughly at the time, it has grown a little, but at the time it was 1.1 and 1.1. If there is any increase before any adjustment by you, that only goes to the zoo. It won't be material, at least it probably is to them, but not for our purposes. And I think that both David and I may have said it opposite, and it makes more sense. I think 35% of the other 1.1 is for, I know it's 35% for capital and 65% for operations, maintenance, and staffing. So it's 6 total mills. 3 and 3 to the zoo, which is roughly 1.1 million, 3 to rec. And of that, it's a 35-65 as we reported, but I don't remember if we said it the opposite yesterday. I probably was thinking more the larger the capital, but it is more in line with what I told you, Malcolm, that we were trying to make sure that we don't keep building without the operations and maintenance. So it's actually 35% capital, 65%. So that is it. And here's a copy of it for the record, just so you guys have it. The handwritten notes are mine. It just says 1.1 and 1.1. And that's it. We're ready to turn it over to David and get started with what the chairman needs.
Okay. All right, David.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to ask you, would you like to go into the enterprise funds, or would you like to walk through the very small ones that are largely custodial? We can spend a little time on them if you like.
Let's go with the latter.
Okay. Get the page number.
Yeah, it's 162.
Oh, thank you, Paul. That's pre-trial intervention. That is our only special revenue fund in this budget. Roughly runs $185,000 a year. Winds up coming back to general fund for public safety purposes.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if it's changed, Malcolm. I said it used to do a lot more than that.
Okay.
We have some theories about COVID and other things, but it used to be double that or more.
Okay.
And the way I originally had it set up was it funded 100% of Safe Alex, so that Safe Alex was budget neutral in general, funded only by the people in PTI, which I still think is the smart way to do it, because it's negative consumer paying for our Safe Alex, which makes sense. So I'm going to be, this didn't make our first 2 years full performance audit. It is now. So we'll go into it this year. So 6 months from now, I'll be talking to you guys about any changes that we have.
And the city prosecutor is the one that's in charge of PTI, correct?
So under the law, yes, and under the way we have it, our person there who was a first assistant over in Leesville, who's here running it, is Ronald C. Strunk, is our chief of the city prosecutor's office, and he has the discretion to decide the power of no low prosecute and pretrial intervention, yes.
So you're saying it's typically about double the 185?
No, I can look back and see that it hadn't been, and I know it wasn't. When I was last mayor, it was much more than that.
Okay.
Pre-COVID it was.
Pretty- Okay.
Much more. But I also was looking at, Madam Councilwoman, that we wouldn't want to keep, the object is not to charge people who have trouble paying anyway to pay to play. Our whole plan, I submitted one to Burnett Johnson when she was Chief Justice, Malcolm, was to figure out other ways for more restorative justice where it's not just money, so you don't just pay. There's other options. So I don't want to just say it's wrong that it's gone down, but we have to know why, and we have to be thinking about why it was generating more money. So I'm okay if the money is shrinking because we're offering people diversion by other means than pay, like helping pick up trash or doing something else in a facility or a center. I'm okay with that, but I don't think that's this. I think it's just down for a host of reasons that we haven't fully discovered. Kay is working, we're not there yet. I wouldn't even want to guess.
Sounds good.
I have thoughts, but I don't know yet.
Next, y'all, is on page 171 and 172. That's our sole remaining sales tax debt service fund, 2015. It's basically, it gets its revenue from sales tax proceeds, and it's just principal and interest on the debt.
Are we skipping over the debt service funds?
That is the only debt service fund.
Okay, okay.
There's a total in the front. If there were multiple funds, there isn't. We're just down to the one down.
Okay.
So explain this to David one more time.
Yes, sir. This funded actually capital projects in the past. Basically, you issue bonds for them. You retire the debt.
Pay the debt off.
Basically, pay it off.
This is your interest page.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, I'm assuming that is the only remaining part of the Spark bonds, right? Or
Yes,
did we
sir.
retire? Yeah, that's it. I
This
thought
is
we had retired some of it early, but
2014 we paid off.
Yeah.
15's got, I believe, another 3 years on it
29.
before we pay it off.
And so, it's all good, this is good, but Malcolm, in a proper discussion that we were having about Reignite, actually with Cynthia as well, the idea here for a big Spark Level 2 set of projects where we group them together with a CSRS, that kind of thing, we're calling it Reignite as our placeholder
The
name.
CRS, what was it that acronym stand
That's a
for?
firm in Baton Rouge that is, that we've been talking about that placed well when Spark was first there. Shaw actually got it. We ended up not going with Shaw because they could not get an agreement signed after a year.
Is Shaw still in existence?
No, Jim Bernhardt is still out, very
does.
active,
He
but
does.
Shaw's not.
Okay.
You sold the
The
Brown
the
Ridge.
point would be for that level of putting in projects, and when we get to the Capitol, we'll talk about it, like playgrounds and all that. In theory, this gets rolled up in there and becomes part of something new, and this is small, like as Trey said, this is a good thing. So this page would be replaced if we do something new, and there the call is specific, unlike our other tax discussion yesterday. It's to do these things, and it's got a certain list of things because it's for going out and bonding. So we're going to tell y'all about the trouble with bonding for utility, but this would be bonding based on ad valorem and sales tax. So that's a different, we're in a lot better ability to do that.
You get separately rated on those.
We're just betting on the come, the sales tax will come in.
Yes.
How we doing?
Anyway, that's it.
At the, on 172 is the actual split between principal and interest. And you can kind of tell the interest goes down, the principal goes up as the issue ages, kind of like your home mortgage.
Now, overall, how much, I guess, how much money do we owe? Does the city owe?
So that's, you'd have to take that note and see,
Flip back to page,
It's a concert.
Big concert going on that day.
167.
167.
Yes, sir.
7.5? That's on,
Yes.
that's just, this is one debt.
Yeah, that's the single debt of 215. That is the only debt on the sales
On the
tax.
sales tax.
Right, there is no general obligation.
we don't have any general obligation debt.
Right.
Okay, so what is general obligation debt?
If we had gone out and done other bonds based on that, we'd have those that exist, and we don't. Spark was a piece of ad valorem, this is memory, but I have it, it's 35 million was sales tax, 15 million was ad valorem. It was 90 million total was Spark. We had a match from federal, so the point was you'd have, that amount going in, we'd match it with federal funds, and then the city capital outlay was another 30 or so. So we got to a $96 million project with Spark to do all those different things together at one time.
So what you're telling me is $7.5 million is owed to be paid back with sales tax and ad valorem taxes?
No.
Just
Just
sales
sales
tax.
tax.
Just sales tax here.
Just sales.
That's the only debt you have. We retared the ad valorem early.
Right.
So it's gone. And so what I'm saying is if you borrow new, once we get through our travails that we're talking through, you would roll this up in something new because it's so low. I mean, I know 7.5 million's a lot, but it's not a lot in this budget. It's not a lot for carrying debt forward to accomplish the goals we have.
So how much, so how long will it take us to pay out that 7.5?
2029, we're done with this.
3 years.
If we don't do something else, but I suspect this
How
council's
many
going to do
Right
something
here.
else.
They broke it down. See if- they broke it down to the
167,
last.
Cynthia will show you the breakdown.
And,
Yeah.
and any debt on your utility system, that's a whole
It's a
nother.
whole
different.
separate,
We'll
different
get to
animal.
that.
Okay, all right.
And just a note, side note, is on every bond that we've had, we've renegotiated and gotten lower interest on everything. I believe
Yes,
it.
Yeah.
This was a refinance.
Well, I think they did one with utilities that I don't think ended up helping, but it'll ultimately retire earlier, which won't be bad.
That's what
It ended up,
refinanced
but
too.
If it
it did
retires
help the
early,
bottom line for the folks at home.
Yeah.
It wasn't needed. Sometimes people will come in and try to sell y'all an early retirement because a bunch of people make money, a whole bunch, but the bond commission has become much stricter on that, Malcolm, so the people that sit on that will look to see if there's a certain percent you get back for the city corporate, you, the city, or they won't do it, because they know over the years, the bond lawyers and everybody go around the state and tell y'all, hey, I'll retire your bond early, all your debt, but it's a bunch of people making their contingent money, but it doesn't necessarily always help you. So there has to be a percent of savings, Trey, right, before the current commission will approve it. So you can imagine people can get right on that percent, get it done, and it still isn't always great. I think that one was done in the 4 years I was out with utilities that I've been highly critical of internally because it did not help those at home, and it isn't going to be so much earlier that it mattered. So I would not have done that. But it technically will be not a bad, it won't be a mistake on the council's part, but if it doesn't help what you're trying to do, we'll try to. Is that accurate? It also what? Okay, and it also made that bond taxable when it wasn't before. But what I stated was an accurate description? Okay.
All right, y'all, next is page 173. We talked briefly yesterday about different types of proprietary funds, enterprise being utility, other big ones we have operating. This is the beginning of the 3 internal service funds that are similar. They're also business-oriented, business operated. Now, in our particular case, our 3 internal service funds are all self-insurance. That's what they exist for. First one being this one on revenues outlined on 173, that's risk management fund. It accounts for our general liability, auto, and workers' comp, and property insurance on our own property, city property.
All right, so
It's 4 clients, so the general fund, utility fund, sanitation fund, and bus fund. They, quote, pay a premium.
So you're self-insured, you're your own insurance company. These are your customers paying into your system for their problems when they have workers' comp, et cetera, and you can see them broken down.
And then each claim, when they hit a certain level, council has to approve the payments. For instance, you're going to be meeting next week.
Next week.
To approve certain resolutions of claims.
On cases.
Y'all have reserved yourselves the right to do
Yeah.
that.
So, and at some point, well, is this all insurance, or are we self-insured to a certain amount then?
Reinsured above the self, but he's asking do we have any commercial insurance for anything, any few vehicles or something? I thought y'all purchased something for a couple of things, right? We have,
Transit.
we have some, not reinsurance on top, we just have some commercial stuff with that. Yeah, we have a few policies.
Now, for those who listen, what is reinsurance?
So the reinsurance would be, I used to use a bookie analogy, but I guess I shouldn't do that. What a bookie does when they lay off that's all it really is. So I don't bet.
Sure.
Not at all. I know people that do. So the reinsurance is, we're self-insured for these amounts. If there was some kind of catastrophic or other issue that was a loss above that, we have a hedge. So we have it set up where that reinsurer, the famous one y'all always heard of your whole life was Lloyd of London, was the famous one in England that reinsured everybody. So you're talking about paying for something that's so unlikely, but they make the premium work for themselves, but if they get there, they get tapped for an overage at a certain amount. I don't know that we've ever had. So think about where we stand on that. The risk is so small for us. Because we're a governmental body, we're already capped, as Malcolm knows, at 500,000 for almost all claims. Now, of course, you can have future medicals and all that, which can go beyond the 500,000, but government enjoys some other things built in that limit the liability of the city.
Okay.
So generally speaking, there's a $500,000 cap on a case against the city for a single event with claimants. But obviously, there can be, if someone is alive and on, life support or something, that can go beyond the 500. But most cases where that's not the case, including death cases, are capped at $500,000. So that's another situation that controls the amount of loss we can have. But we do have reinsurance in place.
So, utilities, sanitation, and transit, that pretty much covers all our employees?
So general fund is going to be
General
everybody.
fund, too.
So think about it like this, Gary. General fund is everybody but those 3 separate.
Okay.
That's everybody
Okay.
else.
It's a good way to think of it.
And they're 3 separate because they are enterprise, because they do things that make their own generate money, buses, utilities, et cetera. So they're held separate. Everything else we're doing with our employees is providing a service, the police, every public works and all that, right? They're providing a service to the public in exchange for a tax dollar. These actually, in addition to that, charge a fee for service to do something for the city.
Okay.
A utility, a bus, et cetera. So they're proprietary and enterprise in some cases.
Okay.
I'm going to skip over the risk manager because we don't presently have one. If you look at 178, that'll give
You
you
mean a person?
right. Yes, sir.
That's a good job. We need to fill it.
Yes, it is. Person to oversee the risk management operations.
Who was that?
Ron Woodington was the last one we had.
He was good. When did he leave?
Many years ago.
Well, then y'all are saying we don't need somebody if we've been.
No, we do, but we need to revamp it.
It's Sounds like a more serious discussion by the tone of your voice. I'll leave that.
Page 178, it breaks it out between the premiums and fees and the claims on general liability, auto, property, and workers' comp. Then on page 179, y'all, is the second of our internal service funds employee benefits, and that is strictly health care for the employees. It's funded partially by the employees and partially by the city.
Mayor, yesterday, in listening from home, I think Malcolm asked about a pay raise for the employees and something about the health insurance is going up, or it's going to be absorbed by the clients, not clients, the employees.
The city's absorbing it.
You
So
see
there was
that?
going to be, go ahead, David.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. You see the $2,065,000 on page 179, Jules? In the last column that has anything in it?
269?
265, you said?
Yeah, 2,065,000.
$2,065,000, yes.
I'm saying in two different separate columns. What do you have?
Okay, it's item 388101.
Yes.
Yes.
388101.
That's a transfer from general fund that's covering that difference, absorbing the cost.
And Mr. Green, I'm not being rude, I wouldn't take a text in the middle of a conversation with you, but it looks like it's an emergency for someone. Give this to Chad. First, let's see what the person answers, and then your Chad calls him from my phone. Okay, sorry.
You want to hold it a minute?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Did Mr. Green get answered?
Was that what you needed, Mr. Green?
You're saying the city is going to absorb the cost?
The increase, the normal cost that would go to their portion, we're gonna take that new cost on ourselves.
Right.
It was a
Didn't pass any of
significant
that
number.
on to the employee.
And it's coming all from the general fund, not utilities or transfer. That helps utilities.
Okay. Idea.
The general fund's paying for everybody's.
Right.
In this case.
All righty, and on page 181, if y'all want to take a look at that, that's the different splits between our costs there.
Call.
That's the notification that we're all supposed to give.
All righty, and then on page 182 is the last one, that's our unemployment claims. We run a very small internal service fund there. We got into that years ago because it was way cheaper than buying it on the market.
That makes sense.
This
It's
is,
going good so far.
this is real low. I wouldn't expect it to be this low. So 10,600 is,
In many years, that's more than enough.
Plenty.
Well,
It's,
that's,
Has been.
well, here's the deal.
Last year was
If people are getting unemployment benefits, that means they were not separated properly, and we're paying them for being wrongfully separated to a certain degree. So.
I mean, this is a good sign.
That's a good sign, yeah.
Our efficiency rate on,
Separating.
so Gary, if someone resigns,
No,
they're not eligible. If they try to argue, I resigned, but it was a constructive termination, heavy burden for them.
Yeah.
The only other, and then you don't pay it if it's misconduct. So if they resign, it's out, and then there's a statutory definition of misconduct,
yes.
23:1061 something.
Your memory's better than mine.
It's,
Yeah, on that one.
whatever it is, it's negligence or more. And so that means at least in them do their job, and if they terminate, it usually is upheld. And every once in a while, when I see someone appeal unsuccessfully against us, and they tell me one in staff, it's usually, I don't know, they're quirky ones.
Well,
when
we've
they-
had some quirky things where someone leaves an employee of the city and not eligible for unemployment, goes to work for me, works for 2 months, gets fired by me for cause.
They come back.
And then they come back and they use mine up, and then they go on the city.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
That's the type thing that we've had to pay.
It's a secondary, yeah.
Okay, but that's good. I mean, the 10,000, that's not a lot.
That's all I know about, I'm just at UC, so that, I've got the limit of what I know just now.
In that fund?
sir?
Do we accumulate that money in that fund?
Some years, yes, sometimes no. Sometimes we pay out more than 10-6.
I was just wondering if we have,
But we keep so much risk management availability
Okay,
that we're
that's
there.
fine.
And as the
It goes-
council knows, y'all don't
we don't have to pay it, I know.
have to pay. In addition to all that other stuff I said that protects us, cities don't have to appropriate. You always have, and it would be my recommendation for the rest of my life, that it is immoral not to pay the judgments that the city has, that we should honor.
Now, I have a question, sir.
Which one would you-
One reason.
All right.
I know there was one that wasn't paid. That's not my issue.
367101, interest investments.
Yes, sir.
So this fund is being, I guess, funded by investment money?
Mostly, yes, sir. We haven't put any extra money in it in quite some time.
And investments, what's that coming, what's the actual investment?
CD.
CDs mostly.
All right, we're very
And
limited.
interest on our, mostly, we make most of our stuff on interest on checking. We get pretty good interest off of that.
And that, okay, and that helps fund this and other things, I'd imagine.
We're not making any stock bets or anything like that.
Oh, no.
Well, all right,
Any
we're very
amount that
limited
you
on
get,
what we
yeah, we're not able to anyway. but
They
we
still
would.
drain our account every night, like at 5 o'clock and
We don't do that anymore.
anymore.
They pay us strictly on our balance on checking, which is much better.
Much
We don't have
better.
to in and out.
They used to drain it every night
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock and invest that money between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the morning. Invest in that, we'd make interest on that time, but now they just pay.
That's the old sweep account. They
Sweep account.
did that for many years, but they dropped that. They said it's
It's about my pay.
too much circle for them. It was a whole lot of cost on them.
It's about my pay rate too.
Yeah. They said, we'll just pay you. Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah, that's good
You
stuff.
could get to,
You ready?
which I guess
All right,
doing
y'all.
there.
Page 199, let's jump into the rest of the enterprise funds, which will be the rest of the proprietaries, which will start with utility and run through the enterprise funds. Then we'll double back and hit 5-year capital.
Okay, all right, good.
199 and 200 is the revenues of the utility fund. And as you can see, the vast majority of those are charges for services, for electrical, water, gas, and wastewater. We typically flatline those from the budget from last year. We take a look at major budget amendments to see if they're up or down and adjust accordingly.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, sir.
on the same page, item 345902, charges for services from Dexys. Is that the new cable company?
Yes, sir, that's Vexus.
It's 23 and 24.
When we make improvements to our pole system, and Marcus, if you're here, tell me if I'm wrong. When we make improvements to enable them to use our poles, they pay us for them. We charge them, and then we make the improvements to the poles, replacing poles that are old.
A lot of it is replacement of poles, is what you're saying.
So all the work they've been doing, it was only $960,000 in that 1 year that.
Yeah,
So
that-
that's if we had to change what we were doing. A lot
What
of
we
their
were doing,
work was done.
I know they obviously spent
A
millions more.
lot of the work was on the
but
ground as far as
that's-
permits, but that is if we had to change our poles and re-string wire and do things differently.
So that's actually kind of significant for that, just that.
Yes,
And they still
That's-
have some phases to
the
go.
last major one that we've had, which also helps the citizens as well.
Okay, the reason I was asking is I got a call from someone in Charles Park was asking when was Vexus coming to that area, and they to find out about the project manager. So that's why I saw this low cost here, trying to see what part of the city they were in, and you see pole changing.
So they have a map on their website, but they would have to contact the actual Vexus office to find that out, or actually look at the map and it has their service area where they're going to next. We don't necessarily know exactly where they're going because they're, a private company. We only know if there's some changes that we're doing to our infrastructure. So if there's changes to our infrastructure, they will send us a proposed route that they're looking for, and then we will then look at that route and see if there's any changes that we as the city have to make, and then we charge them for those changes. But as far as them deciding on where they're going and putting their services, they have actually the ones that decide that.
So they won't be doing service through the whole city?
No, my understanding is they're doing service throughout the whole city. They've actually deployed over 50% of the city. And we actually, they did a public announcement for that, but they've actually moved on and started across the river as well. But they're deploying the entire city.
Okay.
Yes. We've actually been farther along than Lake Charles, and they started in Lake Charles first, so we're kind of excited about that. So it's just another option for citizens.
Another way you can get your services.
I got a question, I've been wanting to ask this question. The wood poles versus the aluminum poles? Concrete. So, when do you, how's that decided? The reason why I'm asking that, in Martin Park, about 4 months ago, when the tree limb bent the poles, the concrete poles, whatever, just bent them down. So they replaced them with the old-fashioned wooden pole. So, who decides that, and what is the cost difference?
Our electric distribution department decides that, when they go out there. The wood poles are cheaper. I'd have to give you a number on what it is. I don't have the bids with me right now, but, typically we try to go back with the treated wood poles whenever now, if it's a major corridor, or if there's a lot of, sometimes the concrete poles are a little stronger, so if there's some angles that we can't put guy wires in, there's just some different scenarios where we put a concrete pole, so we don't put two guy wires in somebody's yard. I mean, there's some different scenarios where we use those concrete poles.
We're saying concrete, but
So it looks
Spun concrete.
Yeah, it looks aluminum, but it's concrete.
But the way those things bent, like aluminum, I mean, they bent those two poles, that tree hit that wire, and bent them like this. And I was surprised how, man, it was, so that's why we have four-way stops at the entrance of Martin Park now.
Just,
Anyway,
that was our second part of the tough discussion yesterday, was that the reformation of that's capital problem. Those are the kinds of things that, so the answer is we should be doing all hardened, burying everywhere we can that's new, and hardening everything we do. That is the answer that everyone wants in every city.
In the
Cost
same,
money.
I'm sorry, and the same thing with the lights, with the,
LED
with the LED lights, yes. Do we have certain areas that will get the LED lights, or we planning out, or do we plan to change all the lights to LED lights?
So if it's new construction, they're LED lights.
Right.
Okay. It's not as simple as that, because some of the fixture heads aren't made to where you just interchange an LED light. You have to change it. Some of them, they can be retrofitted fairly easily. So my response is it depends.
Okay.
But no, it would.
And you guys get hammered like, this neighborhood has this type of light, this neighborhood.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
What we talked about yesterday. Developers can put in the higher end, and that's their choice, because they've subdivided that land, they've decided what they're gonna sell it for, they want an upgraded deal. And so y'all get the pressure of, why does this neighborhood look different? It's not you didn't pay for it, it's the developer that paid for it. We're constantly having to fix where we've annexed places in from the parish and other areas of the city, but that's a developer cost. Where we run into a problem then is when we accept the operations and maintenance, if what they elevated to has a differential in cost to us, what do we do? And for example, with the Versailles corridor, there was a deal about a difference that had to be paid still by the group. Obviously, after a few years, y'all got the calls, people don't want to do that, and they say, no, the city has to take it as it is, and so we're constantly dealing with those problems. Another example would be, so much of everything was built underground in Versailles that all people out there want everything to stay that way. Well, you just heard him with wood poles and the costs. It's tough. You got a $40-50 million project with Mr. Price out there with that nurse. That's needed and beautiful and a huge impact to the city. They'd love to see everything buried. And we did bury some.
I mean, put it in
but
the
not all.
back, though.
And it's all lined in the back, so we do respect that, but honestly, Gary, in the future, what you'd want as a council is that everything start to be buried and that everything start to be hardened, if you will. Hardened just meaning against storms, against, resilient against any kind of catastrophic or almost catastrophic events.
It's real easy to do.
They just cost a lot more.
It's real easy to do if you're willing to pay.
If you're willing to pay. And so that's not on y'all. I know you get hit with that, but it's not you. That's the developer who passes on that cost in the price of that subdivided land
When he
to a
sells.
customer when he sells it.
But
All
that-
we do is take the infrastructure.
Is it possible for the city on the front end to kind of get an idea of what the developer's doing so that?
We do that.
We have now, new developments, we have high standards.
New developments, we
They have to be-
make them come up to that.
Okay.
New
Here.
developments.
Yeah.
Just the old developments. The newer developments, if you're gonna build a subdivision, you gotta put underground utilities, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, or we won't let you do it.
And the specs, I think, on the street composition and width and thickness.
All
yeah,
so
all
much
that
It's all
factored
discussed
in.
during plan review.
Yeah.
And it's all so much stricter than
Yeah.
in the years
Than used.
past.
Mr. Cornell and the mayor, in Christina Place and backside of Landmark, when you all, whomever put those pump stations up, they did not go subsurface, they went above ground on the backside of Christina Place. And I've heard so many complaints about that. So who selected to go in the air as opposed to going on the ground with that?
So, we actually have a dedicated utility servitude, and it's almost 4 times more expensive to go underground. That's why developers, that's why we don't pay for those type of things. So, the actual line that we had to have, we couldn't just backfeed it from, Landmark to feed that pump station. We had to have a
Correct.
bigger size line to energize those pumps. And the closest one that we had was right at the edge of Victoria Place Estates. That was the reason we went overhead. Now, we didn't have anybody to cost share with. There's no
So
entity.
I wanted y'all to hear that term, cost share. We can cost share. If a neighborhood wants to stay up to the level where they are, the city can pay what it would pay anywhere else, and the neighborhood association or developer, it's usually the developer's out of it by then. That's how this goes. So the developer sells everything, they're gone. And if the HOA is not active and has rules about how that's gonna be, they immediately go, well, this is all the cities. The ordinance says, once it's the cities, it's to be maintained by the city, but then there's an agreement that says, yeah, but when you built it at this, we're here. And here's the irony, y'all get hammered that this neighborhood doesn't look like this one, and we need to do a better job explaining, you didn't do that, the developer did that, right? But then Jules is getting hammered about back in there where look at your crew, they're doing the right thing. They're not allowing the wealthier neighborhood to get the higher infrastructure without the differential that no one else would get. But then they're getting hammered. So what do? Do you say philosophically, well, if a developer in that community invested that much, all of the city stuff should be equal to them? One could argue that, but then y'all are going to say that isn't right. Or you're going to get hammered about whether it's right. And so this is a balance that we look for. We did not approve all buried on Versailles, but I will tell you, some of it needs to be. It's designed to be, and we need to move that way. There are areas in Cynthia's district where it never was, and there's plenty of overhead all around it, but you could bury it and it'd be better off. We'd end up saving money because it keeps going down for the same reason. I think we have to be way more strategic, and if we ever get straight about funding our future infrastructure right, which was yesterday's conversation, I know y'all know what I mean,
It's tomorrow's too.
we need to bury more, and we need to harden more. And that's what everybody's doing. It's part of what's called resiliency. Resiliency is the degree to which you can take on a problem or a catastrophe and keep on going.
Right.
Okay. You gotta learn how to see that.
Jules?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, he's good.
All righty.
They're still going to hammer you, Jules, so.
Oh, I've talked with them. I just wanted to get a clarification on that. Thank you.
Y'all take a look at page 202. That is the utility administration section. We went over the one in general fund yesterday. This does basically the same thing. and it also houses the transfers to other funds.
That's at line 647101. The big one.
Oh, yes.
One of the big ones. And then you'll see above it a big one to risk management.
That one is the transfer to general fund, 646101, and it's reduced by 2 million this year.
So 2 million less is gonna be transferred to the general fund?
Yes, sir. Basically to give the utility system a little more cash flow. General can go without it. General's okay.
He doesn't really believe that. I made him do that.
Arm still
This
hurts
is
where he
all
twisted
putting
it.
the utility up, just like we outlined yesterday. It's about the utility's turn. In the absence of rate reform, we have to make sure we're not kicking the can. So that used to be different, right? That would be, we used to take the utility money and give it to general fund as help. We're doing the opposite.
And to Mr. Green's point about the supporting of the employee benefits fund, it's all on general fund, same reason. Usually we split it between general and utility to give utility a break
We're
this
giving
year.
utilities a break for 2 years running.
But don't we also need more customers?
Well, the city is limited in customers because of
Corporate.
you can only take customers in your geographic area plus so many feet from the line.
I mean, but still, we need more, we need people.
We do,
to
and
be
look,
Alexandria.
we got good stories. Kia, Walker, and all that growth is occurring out there, and we're getting a little more. We can't serve it all. We have to partner with Clico on a few of the big ones, but we'll continue to spread infrastructure, and that will help. But commercial versus residential, I mean,
In essence.
you can only grow within the municipality.
I understand
So
that.
if you annexed a bunch of spots around the city that are in the parish, and you thought, okay, well, if we annex all that, we're gonna now, the cost of the failed infrastructure in those areas, and there's a bunch of them, that would immediately demand that y'all pay for their stuff first. So think of all the people in your queue right now, waiting in your lines in your district. It's my turn, it's my turn. You go annex a whole bunch of new stuff. They've been in the parish system, their stuff is,
Doesn't exist.
they want to jump the queue, they're gonna need everything, number one. So whatever you think you gain in the population, everybody says, well, y'all wanna go, we could go above 55,000 people tomorrow, but you can't afford it. Because the cost of that infrastructure that's failing far exceeds any benefit we get. And you're still capturing their sales tax, they live here, they're buying and sell, they're doing all that here, still capturing what our main revenue is, sales tax. But the ad valorem and anything else you get would not exceed the demand on an infrastructure system that you're having trouble funding now.
Police,
Take care of your
firemen,
O&M.
You'd also have that.
police and
Service.
firemen and everything else.
And all that service has to then go out. I mean, we partner and do it now anyway, and to a large extent, the parish does it with us and we do it. But we're careful about thinking through that on annexation.
So Mayor,
I wasn't.
were you through?
Go ahead, Mr. Green,
Uh,
I yield to you, sir.
Mayor, in Ms. Perry's area, out from it, and in Mr. Larbady's area, Malcolm, however y'all doing today, Lawson Heights and Kelly Land. I know Kelly Land Group, I've gotten calls about being annexed, and I know I've gotten calls about Lawson Heights. When he asks about moving the city's population up. Now, I know Kelly Land would be a problem since I know when I found all these people on septic tanks out there in this state. They're on Clico, some of them, and then, so I'm just curious to see what, and I heard you say about Kia, because I was out at my bank the other day, and I didn't know what there was that they were building, until I saw that sign. Kia Walker is building the Kia plant, facility. And I hope they get to sell many cars after tomorrow. So, so anyway, so I was just saying, when, moving up the population of the city, I've gotten calls from those two areas. That's why I brought it up.
So, and that would be my same response. If you look at non-home ownership, that's not new ad valorem. And if you look at Kelly Land, which is some of the worst infrastructure in the region, that would draw us down.
Okay.
We need to look at some greenfield with mixed use, mixed income, the real deal, and we know of some spots, but it needs to be quality stuff that all of you support, and we've got some suggestions. When Think Alex was done years ago, they have a function heat map of the whole region, of the whole city, where they can show you, I mean, you gotta look at a lot of things, Gary. You look at, is it a floodplain? You know, how far up above the floodplain is it, right? Is it already in a contiguous area where Chad's people and Sam's people can get to it easy? Do they have to travel to go out in one spot on a highway where you just annexed out by England to get something in? All those things have to be looked at. You want it to be as compact as you can. If you imagine the perfect city's a circle, right? Everything's equidistant from the center, so you locate that way. No cities are like that rarely, but that would be perfection. So we do look at that, and we actually have a written annexation policy, and every division head has to check off before we do it. It will not increase fire and police, they have to check. It will not increase a utility without income that matches it. And most things fail it, because most of what we annex would be infrastructure that is being brought in, that was built in a way you wouldn't approve in the city.
And most of them won't switch over to Cleco.
Yeah. And if they don't want to switch because they don't believe we're lower and we're way lower, then you really have there's no benefit to you doing it. You got to have people come in. If they're coming in, they got to take our utility.
So LSUA, I met with the chancellor, with Paul.
They ought to be pretty happy with us. We're giving them $3 million.
He's a very good guy. He's
Doing the
happy.
sewer deal with
And,
them that they've been trying for 20 years, and that's Baton Rouge that blocks it.
And glad you brought it up because I bought property out there that I can't do anything with it. And LSUA have the same problem because they're growing so fast, and they want to put up more domes, but the sewer system, I don't know.
That's on the state.
That's on the state, yes.
This is, Trey's your man on that. He'll tell y'all, it's not something we're holding up.
No.
But you have a perfect example of the problem I was just describing. We want that too. In fact, I wish LSUA were in the city.
Yes.
But think about where the city ends now in going and getting them. Guess what's between you and LSUA?
My property. You know? 8 years ago, they sat down there.
I actually knew that was coming. I gave you, that was an alley-oop. You could have that. What do you think that type of land is that goes out there? You think it's?
With the dairy, the dairy was out there a long time ago. That's part of the dairy.
Farmland.
The farmland and all that.
You think is it wetland? Is it floodland? Or is it-
Yes.
Okay, so all that is us assuming infrastructure where we have new people complaining about my house flooded in the rain and all. That's all no. Right now. That doesn't mean there's not ways to mitigate it, but we got to think through that.
I just brought it up selfishly.
You got enough problems today.
We are working with the chancellor and the people in Baton Rouge, Mr. Johnson.
Garyville's is just
We had some.
Yeah,
We had
once again.
We had a comprehensive review, and we made some recommendations on what the city would do and to take over the line.
But he's very happy with us because we've been supporting
So
him.
if they will turn over the infrastructure to us, that's the deal I always make. I did it with Masonic. We'll take state stuff. You can turn over your infrastructure, we'll operate and maintain it into the future. We'll take that sewer to help those kids. But on your dime, you got to turn it over in its best state. So in its first turnover to us, we just want it to be right. We don't want to fix your stuff the day we take it. That's an absolute best practice. And it's their money, it's the state that ought to be doing that. They got a lot more money than we do. So fix it, clear up any title issues and all that, turn it over to us clean and free of problems. And if there's a problem 2 weeks in, that's going to be on us. But that's all we're asking them to do. And by the way, I've gone to legislature, I'm helping Paul on that.
Yes, he told me.
With the Commission of Administration.
What are we getting out of it?
And y'all have already.
We don't get anything.
You've passed
We
the
lose money.
enabling legislation already.
We don't get anything.
To allow
We lose
us-
money.
We get the help of
Let's get
LSUA
Mercy
growing as fast as
Business
it's growing.
administration complete with their requirements.
Jim asked what we get out of it. We're supposed to get a deliverable back. I mean, we're going to lose probably on that deal. But we don't lose if LSUA keeps growing at record pace. And we retain some of those kids and get more stuff happening downtown, et cetera. So,
All righty.
Yes, sir. All righty. Next up is the Budget Office on page 204, 205. No questions there. 207 begins customer service, and it'll continue on 208, 209.
Mayor, is the utility office, I guess, properly staffed?
Yes, on the book, it is. On paper, it is.
On paper it is,
Yes.
but in reality, it's not.
Probably we're a little house divided on that. I think some of the guys over there think that we're moving in the right direction at a good pace and would be very defensive of folks. I would tell you, just at a 30,000 foot from where I see it, there's a lot of room for improvement. And when I say a lot, I mean a ton.
I've heard complaints
And by
about
ton, I
customer
mean times
service.
two.
Like customer service, folks have had some complaints about
I
customer.
think I think there's some good things, and I want to be fair on that. So I know those folks will hear me, and I'm normally, we're always careful about that. You don't want your employees mad, but I would say that openly, that I'll have some disappointments based on the same things you do. But mine are less that, where it's just people complaining. I want y'all to remember, the person calling in and saying they're rude, if you could hear what they go through there, and what people come in and do there, it's shocking, it's unacceptable. So I'm going to separate that, because I figure that it doesn't go both ways, because we're the ones who are in the customer service business. We have to take more. Our skin has to be thicker. So that's number one. But separating that complaint out, because that's usually he said, she said, although we record a lot, there's, people, you can see their motions and what they're doing. You have to have the systems in place that were undone, and we need to be about getting all that right so that it's simpler. The connection, I don't mean connection like the utility itself, I mean the connection of the service to the person in need of what they have has to be smooth with as little pieces between it as possible. So I don't know how to explain that better other than, the Jaguar vehicle was famous for having, you turn on the lights and there were 17 different things that had to happen to turn on that light. So Jaguar was always in trouble. People love to own a Jaguar, right? Oh, they're in the shop 100% of the time. Why? Because they have so many different things. You turn on a Ford truck, click, 3 things happen in the light. So there's so many things like that in between, in my opinion, proper customer service that gets in the way, that just needs to be unpacked and made simpler. And these guys are doing that.
Are you
Truly doing it right there.
Are utility employees forced to undergo any annual training?
I was just going to ask that question. I was just going to ask that.
It's just, we have people in positions that should not, I have to be so careful with civil service. Anything I say critical here could be looked at later as a pre-decided something when I don't necessarily mean a specific person. You have to have people that understand not public service, customer service, that you're offering a service, and it's tough all over, right? And there's nobody, Clico gets called, nobody happy anywhere, but you have to be uniform, you have to apply things the same every time, you got to do all those things.
Well, I'm just saying, as elected officials, we all have to undergo an hour of training.
Yes,
I was wondering, should,
they do way more than that.
okay.
This goes back to Gary's point that he made 100 times yesterday. It's hard to get, just think about where we are. You really need to get good people. That needs to be a good paying job, and it's getting better. Lisa's done a lot of work. I don't see her out there, but,
Well, you listen to some of the abuse they take, and you wonder how they stay.
That's why traditionally it's been hard to retain people there now, because of the
But we had a run of people there that we've had some fraud, we've cleaned up a lot too. I mean, there's some people that shouldn't have been in there, and we've rooted a lot of that out. But you can also have people who mean well and just aren't designed for that job. That's the easiest and nicest way I can put it. So what do, Malcolm? Do you keep the training up and trying to get there, or do you have to make a change and do something different? And I'm at,
Then
saying,
to get the people.
since I've been on the council, I did get a lot of people complaining and saying, oh, in customer service, I was told this, I was told that, I was treated this way, that way, and I feel like that's changed a lot, and I feel like I see a great improvement in the last few years. So I feel like
another way to look at it, Lizzie, on that line, and I'll be quiet after that. Y'all got 2 years of people saying a bunch of stuff that we could show wasn't true, and they weren't in the position that they all see it was true. So there's a complaint to you, they're saying I have a $2,000 bill, but if you ask me, I'll just show you, no, it's a $200 bill with $1,800 in arrears. So that's where we were. We've gone through the cleanup of all that, and it was hard, and there was a lot of gnashing of teeth, okay?
but it's so much
But
better.
it is so much better, but where I am now is I'm in the benefit of the chair looking now back and saying, that's been largely cleaned up, so now it's more obvious when there are real issues of customer service to me. This is what you want to hear from me. So now I can more easily see the true problem, because it's not clouded by
Layers
of not real problems. And so, as Malcolm is fond
Well-
of saying, we can do better, and we must.
I'm gonna say this right here, because there's some occupation you have to be a special person. Like, when my wife was a teacher, I could not be a teacher. I couldn't do it. You know, being abused like those people in that utility office, I couldn't do it. You know, so it's both ways. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
some people is just not built to be abused and say, yes, okay, this. You know, and that's probably every job.
I went to ARC today, that little show and tell there, and he was telling me, the head guy says, we got people been here for 30 years, because they just love what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
Then we have some that come here for 1 week, they're gone.
Yeah.
Because you have to love what you do, these people do.
And that's
They're
just,
made for it.
I just couldn't,
He said the same thing to me, and I told him, I said, well, I worked at Pinecrest 10 years, and yes,
My mom worked
indeed,
there
and
30
it was because I had to. It's a difference when you have to work
Yep.
somewhere, and it's a difference when you want to work somewhere. And I had a lady call me this week and about a utility bill, and it was just like, all I could do was just listen, and the things that she said to the representative at the utility office, and I was just speechless, you know, and I didn't know what to say. I just didn't know what to say.
Let me say,
They handle a lot of that pretty good. Just so y'all know, Paul is the ombudsman over there now. I've made him, so I have one person that I know has to make decisions at the end of the day, and that's him. So how would you say, it's tough, to say the least, right?
Very tough.
Okay, so your budget officer, you're trained with him to be a top finance level guy. What is the percentage of time in your day for the last 6 months that you spend on what would be David proper stuff versus other stuff, and then what's the other stuff?
I'm probably 65% customer service, 35% finance.
Yeah.
In 65% customer service, you don't mean in general in the city, you mean one place, right?
Yes.
What one place? The utilities customer
Oh,
service.
utility customer service, yes.
So he's spending 65% of his time as one of your top executives, recruited and brought over here to be training in finance, and he's spending 65% of his time in customer service, so that there's an unclassified person with discretionary authority to make decisions and not get caught in the ever loop of,
well, briefly following up on what Mr. Marbley said, Ms. Perry said, and what Ms. Falco said, I had an incident personally at the customer service office to pay my bill, with a city shirt on, a city badge, my driver's license, and the debit card was in my wife's name. I was told I couldn't use it, but I could go over to the ATM machine and draw the money out of it. I said, sir, this is our utility bill. This debit card is in that person's name. So I'm just saying, the customer, it got rectified, but I just thought that was ludicrous. You couldn't use the credit card, but you could tell me to go over to the ATM machine in your building, excuse me, in the city building and get some cash out. So I'm saying the customer service activity there, it was kind of lost, but it has been cleared up.
I just would say, Mr. Green, there's a reason for that rule.
Right.
And there's a reason you wouldn't be given special treatment.
I told the guy, I said, well, Mayor, follow me with this. If I couldn't give it to you at the window, but you could watch me walk over and get the money out the machine.
You're missing why the rule's there. The rule is there because people get a credit card and they go pay and someone says, we're not even together, and they're not supposed to have that card. Because credit cards in any other business, I deal with it all the time. I just did it making a hotel reservation. They wouldn't let me use my wife's Bonvoy number. It's me, look, it's associated with my name, my everything. They're doing that because of fraud. And so if they make the exception for you, which is on film, then somebody else says, why did y'all make the exception? But look, could they say you're Jules Green, it's clear, and there's another way to follow up with you? I guess they could. But then someone else would say, I don't know that you'd want that. They'd say Jules got special treatment.
That also would have resulted in that employee being disciplined because that is a violation of the policy.
So, listen, I respect what you're saying. Don't take it as argumentative. That's the main one. I didn't want to say it. So it wouldn't be good, you wouldn't feel good if that happened, because that person's getting disciplined if that happens. They don't get to have that discretion to say, because if they can have the discretion for Jules, they can have the discretion for their sister and this is all real stuff that's happened we've had to correct.
Well, after it happened, I found out that you couldn't use credit cards out of your name. But I'm just saying, it was kind of testy at the window.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Testy.
You think he could have, I think that could have been related.
It could have been explained more clearly. Again, I'm standing in this regalia with the badge, with the driver's license, address, and so if he kind of flippantly told me that, I could see why she's getting complaints, people who's not in the city getting information. Customer service training is all I'm saying.
Yeah, because it's just like the lady that called me and said, well, she could, talk the way that she talked. I understood why she did it, over 6 cents, and her utilities got turned off because of 6 cents. And she asked the customer service representative, she said, I have the 6 cents in my vehicle. Do I need to go get it? And they told her no, she would be fine. So she asked her, write it on my utility bill, and she wrote it on her utility bill, you're fine with the 6 cents. But they turned her utilities off for the 6 cents.
That's not true. They turned it off for a failed payment plan. You can't be on a payment plan and get payments wrong, whether they're anything, because no one else does payment plans.
So what's the 6 cents?
It's not the 6 cents, it's you failed to honor so if you're not on a payment plan and you're late and you go in and say whatever, they can accommodate anything.
So was she on a payment plan or
If you're
not?
on a payment plan, then you've said, I've already been derelict in my duty with you.
Because she said she wasn't on a payment plan.
I mean, you give us the account after, so we're not saying her name out loud, and we'll show you.
I mean,
I would be shocked.
Yeah, we should have the account number.
Just because the way the system's set up, it wouldn't, over
Right.
6 cents, it doesn't kick on 6 cents.
And just to, one more point
Paul's
before
saying,
we go.
you can't be cut for 6 cents. It's gonna be a payment plan.
But I think that's the importance of, like Mr. Caffrey said, of following policy. If we followed policy and said, no, you need to pay the 6 cents, whether that's true or not, it would have rectified the issue. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if you follow policy, that's why it's good to be consistent.
Well, I understand all of that,
Yeah.
but all I'm saying is these are the stories that we have to listen at.
But you were missing payment plan part. If you knew that, you'd have been like, well, ma'am, you were on a payment. You're already getting,
Well, you
the
already
grace
know.
is the payment.
Yeah, you already know that, well, they're not gonna tell me that part. You know
I
that.
guess my point is,
Together.
y'all aren't getting 99.98% of what y'all are told.
And a lot of
is the payment
times, what do I
plan.
do, Mr. Caffrey?
You call me, Madam President, and we, I
And we-
the people who
Yes.
handle it on a daily, consistent basis.
Exactly. I'm not going back and forth with them. I'm gonna
Yeah.
call him, hey, this is what I got. Can you look
And that's
into it
his,
for
and
me?
I'll
And I know
encourage y'all to call
you may
Mike.
get tired of me, but I find it's more easier to do that than to be going back and forth with them.
Yes.
Okay, so just so we're getting our top level service better, y'all are comfortable calling Michael. You're obviously comfortable handling it. And if he gives you that, it's a payment plan issue, you're comfortable then telling the person, ma'am, it's not the 6 cents.
Absolutely.
So we're, okay.
Absolutely.
I got it.
I mean, we have
You
that.
just need, you want the,
I just want, before I contact that person
but
back.
y'all want that piece of information to then tell them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And with Mr. Caffrey, I said either you can contact him or I can contact him. But 9 times out of 10, he's better contacting. I mean, we have that understanding.
I'm not
And
gonna
I'm good
interfere with
with
y'all.
it.
Y'all got it
Yes.
down how you want. That's good enough.
So just to be clear, Mayor, utility workers undergo annual customer service training.
A ton, and they go under specific to try to build on specific,
Okay.
I would want that
missing skill sets, and
They're constantly reviewed, and anytime they have any.
listen,
hiccups,
that's all they watch too, and they're
But
gonna
it's
be mad at
almost,
the mayor.
I probably
He's
could
got
do
some
it because
superstars over there that he
it's,
tells me
it's,
are worth
it's no
Yeah.
different.
way more investment in and doing things, and Malcolm, this is right along what we talked
Say that, 'cause
about.
I-
Maybe not filling, we need to change that structure. I think we need to change it and have higher paying, less amount of people with higher pay to get, it doesn't mean you have to fire people, you just quit, you attrit out. When we lose somebody, you don't replace it in that level, we build a better job,
But
a better job.
But civil service needs to help us with that process, right?
Well, that's the one I was explaining yesterday I can do. If I cancel out, now I can't cancel something, then you're out, but now I'm putting someone else in. They won't, but if we cancel it out and that job goes away and it's reclassified as a higher paying, different set of job duties, then we have some freedom there.
Okay, Jay.
Okay.
Let's
You
vote.
ready?
You ready?
Let's look into that, please, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Customer field service starts on 2/11 and goes to 2/12. That's the service workers, meter reading and turning people on and off.
Couldn't do that job either. All right.
Are we up on our customer service workers, meter readers, whatever you want to call them?
What did he
Are we up on the meter readers, the number?
I believe we're 2 short of 18.
Best
Which
I've
is-
heard in years.
Depends on.
That's very good to be
I was
just
gonna
too
say that's-
short.
But the summer's coming, Joe.
Yeah, summer's coming. It's getting
Not
hot.
included in
This
that
is a
number
good way to roll in the summer.
Not included in that number is the lead and the supervisor.
Right.
Totaling 20,
That's good.
Okay,
with 2 short.
yep, let's see come August.
Yeah, but you lose a lot in the summertime and in wintertime when it's not real pleasant to be out there.
Well, and the bills have been consistent because of that, which has
And it's-
also helped with our customers.
214 and 215 is information systems, the computer operations.
I'm still on dollars.
These your IT,
We got a new IT department?
IT department? These your IT guys, right?
We got a lot of new stuff
Yeah.
coming.
Okay.
Okay.
ITIS.
what you think you know.
place is called.
No, I don't, I know we've been saying this, that we need to,
We got a lot of new stuff for coming for that.
because IT is very important these days. That's one way to get more efficient in the things we do.
All righty, y'all, on page 217 and 218 is the Director of Utilities.
I see there's been a big, a jump in salaries.
And I'll lost the last person, or we had a separation there, to recruit Marcus from a state job as a professional engineer. I made that decision. I don't mind saying that that's always needed to be the highest paying job in the city, and it is now. It's higher base pay than me. And I think was the only way to get somebody, and if y'all recall, we turned that around in days. At a time when the utility was everything
What's turn it around mean?
turned around, getting another person in the directorship. Instead of coming to y'all with 6 months of an interim and all that, it was immediate. I was ready.
And part of that too, in 2024, it's not wasn't a full year, and neither was 2023. But we had it. I'm not gonna say what kind of director we had before, but if we had one.
But that was largely a function of making it work. It doesn't mean that the previous person wouldn't merit pay of that scale. It means that that's a function of the market, and that's where that pay should be. I think that 134 is as high as my base too. That was Mr. Marcotte in that position before. What page am I on?
218.
218.
No, look.
Item 5050001.
56.
Well, Marcus is the highest, and then it would have been where I was then. And mine is set by CPI by law. It's not, I don't negotiate with myself or mine. The charter sets it.
You're denied.
I mean, I said that, look, I'm open to any question. You have criticisms of it, I understand. I hate Marcus is sitting here, but I made the decision to get him there.
No one's I'm not criticizing you, man. I was asked a question. You answered it. That's all. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Next up is electric production, y'all. It begins on 220 and goes through 222.
Mr. Johnson, we have 25 slots. Are we up on that? Personnel roster?
Marcus, do you have any feel for how many vacancies there are in the plant?
So, electric distribution is probably operating at a 35% deficit. A lot of it is, even our max pay that we could offer is not high enough to compete with industry standards. Our senior line workers max is $28 an hour, and industry standard right now is $45. So when we get someone in and we train them for 2 or 3 years, they leave immediately because they can go work anywhere for 2 or 3 days a week.
As soon as they get qualified.
As soon as they get qualified, they're gone.
This is a discussion yesterday.
Yeah.
So after police,
Production.
This is production of the
yeah,
plant.
they're on production, but I still wanted to make that point. After police, which we
I got
have
electric
work to
distribution
do.
on mine right now.
This is our biggest problem. It's proper utility pay.
All right. Is there any way we could work with the trade school to where they could train people and they could feed us and?
Even the trade schools.
They are, but we'll lose everybody there.
We can't pay them enough.
We can't pay
I
them.
understand, but it could be a pipeline for us to at least have.
They're doing it.
Well,
They're
the way
doing
the
it.
trade schools work with the programs that they have now with the community colleges is that you actually have to have someone sponsor that individual once you look at them and say, basically, I guarantee you a job. With civil service, that's something that we are unable to do. And also, the private industry is able to pay these new graduates more when they come out of school.
And they can guarantee them.
So they're sending them
Discussed
and
yesterday, a
taking them.
pay issue for the skills.
Yeah, they're basically paying someone that has very minimal skills, well, we pay our normal linemen when they have experience. So it's not, we're not competitive. And CLECO and the other utility companies normally just take all of those graduates from those trade schools.
Well, our highest pay is below their entry level.
It's close.
Everything.
And they lose a lot too to the
Yeah.
line companies that do the travel work
Yep.
because
Yeah, it's not just
it's
Clico.
so
It's all
lucrative.
pay. It's everybody you see around here. They're making a lot of money. Look, they were asking on production.
So, yeah, we probably have, like 3 or 4 shortages. We lose plant operators, but we
Out of 25, only 3 or 4 on production, that's good.
That's not bad. They pretty much retain. We are missing a mechanic, which is a kind of a hardship
That
right now.
hurts.
And they're very difficult to find for what we pay, but we're still active.
I better go get one of them tree mechanics.
Mechanic, and we have some operator positions for the units, so.
Mayor, is it possible to up the salaries if we were to, I guess, eliminate certain positions? Is that possible?
Civil service.
In utilities, it's not, because we have need for the positions plus the up. What I would say is you're on the right track of that other larger discussion we're having about changing it everywhere, although utilities is kept separate from the other fund, but it would give us, yes, in theory, what you're saying is the right approach. Do that everywhere in the city to create lenity, a leaner city with higher pay, and at some point, that translates. We can cross the line, if you will, with the general fund versus the utility fund and pay those guys more. It is a specific need, just like police, utilities.
Can we purchase more equipment to alleviate the need for manpower?
Not in most cases.
Not in most cases. We have to have crews that physically go out and restore power, change out poles.
String lines.
String line, pull new wire and these other.
Underground
On the line side, and on the
Underground
production
utilities.
side, Malcolm, again, people want to battle y'all on what your utility does. Those Ward Cell, that's the best technology in the country. I mean, there's nothing, those are Rolls Royces over there.
Malcolm, we're so short that we have to have contract crews to supplement our regular crews just to do the daily work and the activities that we do daily. So, and we pay them a whole lot more than what we pay our people. I'd rather pay our people and just have.
But we're not
more.
paying the benefits either, though.
No, we're not paying them benefits.
So you gotta, it kind of gets a little bit closer.
I can tell you it's not equal.
No, it's not equal.
Is
It
this,
gets closer.
is this common, in other cities?
The Lafayette
No.
utility system is not.
No, because other cities don't have a utility except Lafayette. It's an issue for them too.
But they're not in civil service.
But they took theirs out, and
And LUS
they
has
made
different
and
pay
LUS took it out from the council and made a rate-making authority that is both. It has council oversight, but they created a real, not a full political subdivision, but a real rate-making authority to take the political heat off of you guys you deal with and to let professionals run it. And it is something that,
Something to look at.
it's something y'all should consider doing.
But also Lafayette is a city parish government too, that's a part of the mix too.
But Lafayette utility system doesn't operate for the entire parish, it's only
Just
for
the city.
Lafayette proper.
Okay.
But you're right,
I'm
you're
from
correct,
Scott.
but
Scott
not
is
the
an
utility.
entity.
Okay, y'all were both talking, I couldn't hear you both.
You're right that it's a city parish government, but the utility is just Lafayette proper.
And it
The
precedes
LUS.
the city parish. It's over.
Since we're on this topic, we are losing a lot of institutional knowledge in our department. So we have people retiring, we're losing that institutional knowledge, and there's a huge gap between somebody that has 25 years and 2 and 3 years. There's no one that's staying that is being mentored to move up because they're leaving. They're just not staying. So we have a huge gap
That's what my husband
in our
says. He says
knowledge
that.
base.
He saw it too.
He says it all the time. You lose the people with the knowledge and you have no one to teach them what they know.
What they need to know.
Right.
And, I mean, we are training them, but they, as soon as they get trained and
They leave.
they're of really good value, somebody else sees that value and they pay them so much more that they just can't. Have to make a life decision and move on.
They don't leave the knowledge here, they take it with them.
They take it with them.
Next up on 224, 225 is Bayou Cove operations. Just very brief.
Who's the head of FOTAC?
Jim Smiley.
Next up is, as Marcus referred to, is electric distribution. It's on 227 through 229.
So out of 39, we might have 15, no, not 20.
What's that?
In electric distribution, says 39 positions, we might have
We're
39.
operating at least at a
25.
35% deficit in that.
Down about a third.
Yeah, about a third.
Okay. So 10 or 12.
What, you're down a third, or you're down 2/3 and you're at a third?
No, we have 2/3 of the
Okay.
field.
Just the
So about
council.
26 of 39.
I heard it right the first time, but that last way he said,
Good
yeah, I said, you heard it too, Liz. He was like, nah,
Yeah.
flip it around.
Don't you listen?
Then on 231 through 233 is water distribution.
Water distribution is operating at 40% deficit. And it's, we have 7 to 8 people that are tasked with all of the work orders throughout the city to maintain the city system. We have 7 or 8 employees that do that.
How many do
And
you
we normally have 4 crews, I'm down to 2.
You got 2 now.
Yeah,
Is that from retirement or just,
that's just from people leaving. One of my senior crew leaders, he's about to leave to go to work in the pipeline for $35 an hour. We can't even compete with that. And
What does his position pay an hour now that he's leaving for?
I think he's at maybe 21. And the max, I think, of his position is 28. I mean, at least at
As far as it could go.
Yeah, I can't even offer him the max because he's in civil services. So
Yeah.
I would if I could.
How many years do you have in the system?
He's been at, I think he's been there 7 years, 6 or 7 years. So that's, these are the people that are the future leaders of the department that are leaving. This is just.
Yeah, well, they're the ones that just get to where they need to be, as far as knowledge and work.
And it's 6, 7 years, he's not vested in the pension system.
Right.
He's more mobile.
Was 10 years vested?
10 years is vested.
Yeah.
But if you go to another municipality, you can transfer your time.
So again, we have to hire contractors to help supplement our staff. And that's just the way we have to operate right now. Unless we do something with our pay structure, it's going to continue in this deficit.
So if we overall increased our pay structure by 15%, would this help us?
It would help.
It would help.
some.
Don't know if it's
Well,
solid.
it depends on what you're
Depends
using
on
that
where you are.
15% for, because not all positions are in the same situation as far as the skill level and the rate of pay compared to the market. So you truly have to look at the actual position and the market,
So he's
not a
actually.
generic 15%.
I got what you're saying, but if there were 15% more in total corpus going there, could that be divided to the needs people in a way that would be meaningful to you?
Only in certain positions, depending on where they are, because we have some positions that 15% won't even put them to the mid of
That's
the
not,
market.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you took the total corpus that's for that whole budget now and increased it by 15%, then you could take that 15 and put it to whomever you want. It doesn't go to everybody. It goes to the people you need.
But I'm saying even with doing that, it would help make a dent, but that doesn't mean it will put you for those
No, I
specific
understand.
positions where you need to be. But it would make a dent.
Well,
It would
is
help.
there-
It would be better than what it is right now.
Is there an increase in the number is it 25% that we're off?
I looked at it a few years ago.
What
and
was it then?
It was bad.
What's
Over
bad?
20%?
We had a lineman that left a few years ago and went to work at UPS. A lineman. We are almost 30+% off from what LUS pays their positions that are similar to ours. And that's just looking at moving hours to their mid, not even their max. So we were over 30% when I looked at it the last time.
But you were not saying the same things.
You just asked me about
Is
it.
that-
No, but you're,
The percentage, and I gave it to you.
but you're still talking about individuals. So a lineman may need a 30%.
No, I didn't say
increase.
individual, I said LUS. I gave an example of a lineman leaving, of one of our linemen, but I said LUS. That has always been our comp. Our comp is Lafayette Utility System.
They're probably the only muni that's bigger than us, would you say, in state?
As far as, yes, for a
Yes,
utility,
yeah, there's
yes,
no,
that is
there's no
correct.
munis really.
Yeah.
There's no real ones left other than us two, everything
I
else.
guess-
Nobody else produces, they just,
I guess my question is, do we have a plan to push back on this issue, on this problem?
We're looking
We
at the
told-
hard to fill positions,
Yes,
which are the skilled
but
positions.
but none of it matters unless you address what we said yesterday.
still gotta pay for it.
Malcolm, the most I.
Until there's rate reform, we can't do this. Like, you're bumping the line of, you're at a 15, I'd say malfeasance, because it gets people's attention. Cynthia gets mad when I say it. But
You stop saying.
okay, I'll start. There's misfeasance, malfeasance, and non-feasance. I'm going to say non-feasance. We're at non-feasance because you got to be in a 15%. There has to be a 15% built above. It just so happens it's the same as the number we're talking about for future. So what is a rate? You apply a rate to someone that pays for a service because it's supposed to cover these three things at minimum. The salary of the person producing the thing that's a fee for service, that's one. Two, the O&M that goes with it, operations and maintenance, and some portion of it, just like that 65-35 on the tax we did, has to be for future capital needs. If you're not building into your rate future capital needs, you can't keep up with technology and build the system out. So think about where we are. We can't pay the people right, and we're not doing future capital, so much so that we moved 5-year capital to our utility when that used to be, you know what when I was first mayor, everybody would complain, the town talk, I was right. Why are y'all taking money from the utility for the general fund? To fund the zoo, the buses, and the things that are loss leaders. We're now doing the reverse.
But Mayor, now, but on the opposite end of that spectrum, we have a lot of people here who are on payment plans. And they're having trouble paying their utility bills. So rate reform ultimately results in everyone paying more.
People are on payment plans because they got accustomed to allowed bad behavior. I know that sounds harsh, but it's a fact. Same people that live here live across the river and live all around in LeCount, Boyce, and everywhere else. That's CLECO. They don't have the payment plans. So how is that? How is that? It's because we created a culture and we have to fix some of that culture. It's not on the citizen. I don't blame them. They got accustomed to something, just like any other bad acculturation can occur.
So the bad behavior was just paying bills late?
No, the bad behavior was a decision made a few years ago, not by any of us, to turn the upset on a bill to $999.99 per month, new per month. What that resulted in is no one got cut off for 4 years. You created a backlog of people owing money that legally, I'm so glad you're on the council now because you can back me up. Under Article 7, it's illegal to give away something for nothing without the right deliverables. That's a constitutional prohibition.
Yeah, but that was also during COVID though, wasn't it?
It's way, Malcolm, it's
Part of
way
it, but it
beyond
was-
that.
No, sir, you had individuals that didn't pay for over
40.
500 days.
Yeah.
$1.
without council.
Tons of people. And
Was it people only or business
so,
and
but
people?
listen what we did. We took into consideration COVID. And we took into consideration that the city's actions lulled people by having that wrong policy. And that's what Restore did, is try to fix that. And then you were attacked for that too.
But also, if my math is mathing, there was a utility breach.
Nothing to do with it.
No,
That's
sir.
got to stop being said. The
No, sir.
the breach was not a utility breach.
No,
Like
sir.
an accounting breach of some,
No, sir.
it wasn't?
No, sir.
No, and
It
we're,
didn't impact any of those internal systems.
not the utility. And we're paying a big sin tax on that with our bond rating. We're getting into some deep stuff with y'all, but our bond rating, S&P, who's not Moody's, who's rating us now, considers that they were lied to by folks, not in my administration and not me previously, because they didn't tell them about the breach. And it led to those issues, and we've been derated twice now, directly because of that decision. And even though we show, look at the change, look at what we've done, look how they're angry, and it comes up on every bond call I have. Y'all didn't tell the truth. I'm like, what's y'all? Y'all got a mouse in your pocket? I didn't do this.
You gotta live with it, though.
But I gotta live with it. So.
We all do.
It's a huge problem. You're touching on one of the most sensitive that we have.
I know.
All right, you need to look at the other utilities and see how they run, and like us.
Now, look, we want to continue to be able to help people. Nobody does what we do. That's not what I'm telling y'all you have to stop doing. But we've got to break the acculturation of you don't have to pay a utility bill because it's public. That's what went wrong. There's an idea that because we're a city, you don't have to act in your role as a fiduciary to make sure it's there. What if you lose the utility? How will you help people then? Because nobody else does payment plans. No one's going to change all those lights that we put on the city. No one's going to do any of that. They're going to pay 35, 40% more overnight. The utility, if there's one thing I could leave y'all with in this budget cycle, and the cops have learned it, and if Chad were in here, he'd say it. If I asked the chief, what's the most important division to the city police? Without hesitation, he'd say the utility. Never knew that. Tigger knows that now. They all watch this because they know that the way they get their pay right and the way the city runs at a much higher level than the 48,000 we have is because of the utility. It allows our capital level to be at about 75,000 people, the equivalent, when it's running right. Not now, but it could be. And think of what that does for the quality of life initiatives you need. Zoo, parks, them. The utilities relationship to the police, my thesis to you today, is the most important relationship. It is. The utilities relationship to the quality of life of this city and economic development and everything else is paramount. And I can prove it. I can prove it on math. I can prove it 1,000 ways from sundown if given the opportunity. Not today, but I can do it.
I have a question, back to, I think, what you were kind of asking. So to get our salaries to a competitive level, it's going to be a process for sure. Raising rates is going to help if we.
Even adjusting, gosh, some of it's just moving, they're all out of whack.
Right.
But anyway, yes.
So, and then looking at, less positions, paying them more. Are there any other strategies that will help this? Because I think that we need to pay our people where they should be paid.
Yep.
And we all want that. No one wants to underpay people.
Look, as long as when we talk about rate restructure, yeah, it can be raising it, but some of those amounts are hardly seen on, they're not, your rate change is not the thing. Part of what we have to do, but it's a huge difference to paying all them, but it's not such a big difference at home when you're already the lowest.
Yeah.
Right? If you're the lowest today and you could go still in the best, not even quartile, best third, or best
People at home aren't gonna feel it.
people wouldn't feel that as much, but your employees would feel it huge. Your future infrastructure would draw down and you'd stay competitive. And Malcolm, the most important thing is that this team, Elaine and all them, are doing their hedging again, which was also stoned. So hedging gas out front, doing all those things for you to have a piece along, right, on gas where you bought it at a small price, at a low price, so that you can use it when the market spikes and moves around. All of that had stopped. And all of that is stuff that you can do with the proper team and people. And we do.
Okay, another question. I know Ms. Elena said that she looked at different positions and of where they need to increase.
Which ones are in need.
Right. What would it take to see which ones we need to adjust?
We, looked at previously, and I think we still have the list of those hard-to-fill positions, which are those skilled positions that we kind of touched on a little bit yesterday as far as Public Works, but they're very similar. We have skilled positions in utilities as well, and so we do have a list of those.
Okay. I would definitely like to see that. Thank you.
So, we're gonna move on, but I'm gonna say this right here. I know salary is the number one issue, you know, for anybody who goes out to work. We still gotta look at ways of bringing more income or more funding to the city. We gotta look at ways, I thought more population, but hearing what the mayor said, that's not as easy as talking about to get people to move here. So we got to go back to the drawing board and look at how do we attract more businesses. I know the airport, I think they're doing a pretty good job out there. And I always thought the airport was a part of Alexandria, but I found out that they're not. So what are we doing or what can we do? LSUA is doing all they can with the nursing program, and they're doing an excellent job to get
Remember, the airpark is a funded, you know,
Federally funded, right?
it's a.
They own the city, that's what I call
They're
it.
also,
Yes.
they're fee for service, they're, you know, they have houses to rent, and they have leases
They own
from
the
all those
city.
folks, but,
Commercial leases, stuff like that.
yeah.
On the entity.
So,
Don't think the city didn't help, I mean,
Yes.
they established that.
Yeah, and we don't have the utilities out there either.
We got.
Right now, we're up to renegotiate our loan contract with them. The airport was getting a franchise fee, which meant we were paying them to use our services other than electric, so our loss leaders, they want that back, and we're going,
No way.
Ralph, we're in a different world now. I get along with Ralph, we're super close.
Yes.
If he hears this, he'll probably call me later and say, I heard you talking bad about it. I get where he is. He's figuring out his budget right now, right? He's looking at, I want my franchise fee back. When's the last time we paid it?
Over a year ago.
Yeah. So theirs is up. We let them loss lead on us more, under the theory, Gary, that we're not giving away something. It's not a prohibited donation because the deliverables back are what they do for the whole community. And I can live with those. I know how to structure that stuff, Trey. We know how to do that. We know how to put the deliverables in an agreement where we're not maybe at the market level we need to be because they do something like LSUA's nursing school. But it has to be the deliverables have to be there because we can't afford it anymore. We used to have a lot more room to do that. Whether it's your project, whether it's programming and everything else, we have to make sure that if we're giving money to a program, they're creating a metric that we can go measure. You saw this many kids did X. There has to be a measurement. Same with England, and so we're struggling with that. We're about to go into negotiations with them. And I know what they want. They want the moon. They're gonna want the sun. And we have to figure out what can we do? You know?
all right.
Yes, sir. On 234, I'm sorry, 235 is water production.
I'll also add that the water department, our employees, some of the positions require Class 4 certifications through the Department of Health, and they're very, very hard to come by.
Yeah.
They just don't give them away. And again, we're having a hard time retaining those employees because they get attractive offers from other places, other municipalities and the private sector. So it's kind of across the board is what I'm saying.
Yes.
As far as, retention.
That's the same issue you have in wastewater.
Wastewater, same, we hadn't got there yet, but it's same issue in wastewater. They have Class 4 certifications that they're required to have to operate the system, and it's just hard to retain those employees.
Are those folks available much by contract?
No, sir, we don't have any on contract to do that.
Trouble is, there's a very few of them, and a lot of them are aging out, they're retiring.
Let me ask you a question. 4 is the highest level of certification for
Class
water?
4.
Yes.
Class 4?
And help me out, Marcus, our size system is required.
Oh, yeah, we're required.
A certain number of Class 4s to operate.
You have to have a Class 4 operator at all times to operate our system.
Smaller systems require
Maybe
lower
2
classes.
Yeah, it depends on population.
Yep. How many people you servicing?
And in the water department, if somebody sneezes in their pickup truck, affects the whole system. It's crazy.
Mr. Cannella, I'm sorry, Mr. Fowler. The rural, the Class 4 certifications, are those only coming from rural water when they have their system, their conventions, and where are they attaining these certifications?
The
Where are
Department
they?
of Health is the only entity that allows those testing, that testing. So they put on those testings in different areas around the state. Sometimes it's Monroe, sometimes it's Lake Charles.
Yep.
But that's where the testing is presented to our people.
Well, last week they had classes in Shreveport. I think it's on Class 1 and Class 2 certifications.
They used to allow the trainers to administer the test after they finish their 40 hours or 32 hours of training. I don't know if they're doing that anymore. They're definitely not doing it for the Class 3s and 4s. I'm not certain about the Class 1.
How long does it take to become a Class 4?
It's a component of a lot of things. Sometimes it's education can propel you to take the certifications sooner, but a lot of times it's time and experience. So I don't know the exact number, but I'm saying at least 4 years you get your Class 4s. I mean,
And then when they get to Class 4, they're out of here for somewhere else.
well,
A lot of agencies hire them without that and send them to school and get it done. We did it at Pinecrest. And then, in that case, Steve Alexandria recruited the one we had. So when they get that Class 4, they're very marketable. And so most agencies get it for them in hopes that they'll stay.
and our skate operators, they work 12-hour shifts. You know, they're on day shifts, night shifts. It's not easy work. I mean, you have to run the system 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we have to cycle. You know, we have a cycle of these skate operators. And that's in gas, electric, water, wastewater.
All systems.
All systems have skate operators, and they have to work in 12-hour shifts. 2 shifts a day, 7 days a week. I mean, so staffing of these employees is critical because we have to maintain our system. And if you get down to 3 skate operators, you basically tell them they can't take vacation, they can't get sick. So,
Right.
And
You
we have
don't want them
that.
falling asleep.
Yes.
Okay,
That's on 237 through 239 is gas distribution.
This department is operating at about 45 to 50% deficit. We have, well, it will be in the next month or two because we have 5 employees that are retiring between now and June, between February and June. So we're losing a lot of that institutional knowledge, and the employees they're hard to retain. I mean, we hire a lot of entry-level employees, we fill those up. We train them, and then, you know, after some time period, they leave. I mean, they get valuable, and somebody else offers more money, they leave.
So much investment in their knowledge.
But again, there's a gap between that 25-year employee, and then you get down to who's here. Well, there's one that's 5 years, or one might be 10, and then some of those 5 and 10-year employees, they don't want to move up. They don't want to be in a leadership role.
Yeah.
So you have that too. They're good employees, and we need them, and they're very good at what they do. They just don't want to either carry on that responsibility or.
Don't we need, bottom line, I wish Lisa were here, legislation that we bring to Ed and Mike and our crew to, I mean, civil service is gonna have to allow for competitive change without the adherence of the old ways of everything. It's going to have to do that.
One of my issues is that
Everyone, it's gonna have to do it. You're gonna be able to identify areas of need, and this crew leader does a different job than a crew leader over here. This crew leader is a highly technical job, this one's not. But that's not even where you get the lineman above all that. We're gonna have to be able to make changes. And right now, no matter how you set it up, you go in front of the board, and their idea, the philosophy that was born from 20 or 30 years ago, where the spoil system abuse thing, civil service comes in and says, no, it's not the victim goes to spoils, we're gonna protect them, right? Discipline's even, everything's even. They move toward an idea that everything that had a similar name, no, they move toward an idea of get all similar names, get all the classifications looking similar, and then make it all exactly the same. And it probably was a reaction to unfairness back in the day. But what's happened is it's overcorrected the other way, and now there's no differentiation. This is a 30,000-foot philosophy, but I've seen it now. For 15 years, I've been in a position where I can now go, I see it happening. We did it, we've gone too far that way. Now you can't differentiate jobs.
Pendulum needs to hang in the middle.
We just don't have that freedom.
Well, a lot on the gas too. Did they have to have pipeline qualifications to be able to do?
Some pipeline safety regulators.
I mean, do y'all understand that? I can't just race, I can't go, oh, there's a need there, that needs to go up to here. That goes for the board, they say, no, you're outside of the, we won't let you grow that much. And we go, you're living in 1970, this is what this job is now, and they say, we need a study on that.
2 years later, you hear back.
2 years later, you have the study, and then that's all obsolete. You got to do another study. You can constantly, in a new pay study. That's the best gig there is, get that consulting job. That's the job you want.
So there are some positions, like Elaine was talking about, that are critical to fill. I can't just tell civil service, hey, I want to advertise this at the max, and we don't advertise at the max. We may advertise at the mid-range, but when they come, it's not enough. I mean, I need them at that higher level so they'll stay. I have at least an opportunity for them to stay.
So when are we going before civil service to address this?
So our board, I think we're going to need state legislation for it.
So has that been discussed?
We're taking them a piece at a time, yeah.
I just want to know if there's a plan to address this.
Well, I'm going to say this right here. This is not just for Alexandria. This is everywhere. This is federal government. They come here. They want to get back to the East Coast. I've been seeing it for years. I mean, I'm just surprised that it's at this level that it is right now. But you're talking about 3 or 4 people, and they're working double shift. You can't go on sick. You can't get sick. You can't go on leave. And then you got to look at this population that's coming up. They don't want to work. We lose a whole generation of people who do not want to work.
That's it.
And if you go out there to Fort Johnson, the civil service is the oldest by far than any other working population in the United States. These youngsters don't want to go to work.
Well, Gary, assuming that's true, and a lot of it is, assuming that's true, take that and put that employee you're describing in a system that never promotes any competition at all, and as long as you get longer in the tooth than anyone else, you promote.
Yeah.
So it's the worst of all. Now, remember why it was formed? It was formed to keep a spoil system out, to keep new elected officials from firing good people and putting their friends in. The police, it's taken a lot of trust to try to build them into some competitive stuff. Well, you know what that would do? You get good officers who want to move up. But the police are terrified of it. They look at it as, you're just going to skip so-and-so because so-and-so doesn't like them. So this is the thing we face. This is what civil service was designed to work against. But it's overcorrected the wrong way. But, it's a trust thing. We got to pay people more in every division.
Not blaming to cut you off, brother.
We're good here. We're good.
Next up on 241 to 242 is wastewater treatment, followed by wastewater collection on 243 and 244.
Just as an aside on this, how are we on our capacity on our ponds and stuff? I'm cleaning out some right now.
We have, Pan American is the engineering firm that's been selected for the clean out, for the sludge removal on Pond 1. We're still actively pursuing, I think, advertisement of that. So, but anyway, we'll keep you updated on that project.
So how long before we're going to have to do something to add to our capacity? So I guess it's a question of.
No, I think the plant has capacity. That's not an issue. It's.
What about capacity in other parts of the city?
That's what I mean, overall capacity.
Oh, no,
for the
no,
city.
it's getting into the plant, that's the issue.
Yeah.
So, we have a couple of identified areas, and I'll discuss this with the mayor. Browns Bend Road is a critical need for growth out there for wastewater, and I do have a plan on how to get that done, but we need a main collection sewer lift station to get it across MacArthur Drive to another area that it can eventually.
How much is the price tag on that?
It's 4.5 million. And then the other thing that we really need to address is we don't have, we're pretty much tapped out on 28 West as far as sewer treatment. So all that vacant farmland that's about to be going to another generation, and they may not keep it, we really need to think about what needs to happen out there. So, you know,
I
one
guess
plan.
that's the question I'm asking, because that's the expansion area for us.
Yes, and I have,
It's the highest function expansion area.
Yeah,
we're gonna perform a study for that area as far as whether we can, you know, add new lift stations out there, and can we upgrade the existing lift stations all the way going to,
And that's a
Hudson
mixed income
Boulevard?
area. It's not one
no, I
level, it's
understand.
You know,
mixed.
do we have to add more force mains? I mean, and what does that cost, you know, and then how do we phase that in? Because there's nobody out there to pay for it, so, you know, we have to think about all these things and plan. But it is something that the mayor was concerned about, and I am too.
It's an issue.
How far can we go on 28?
You mean annexation wise?
Yes.
Continuous.
As long as there's some rules about contiguity, so if you're contiguous, you can go theoretically as far as you want, but you're always
Vernon
constrained.
Parish, really, so.
Yeah,
Vernon Parish.
obviously the parish is a limit, but
Parish land.
you're still limited by what Gary and I were talking about, right? There's some point where the lack of equidistance makes going out, look at, I'll just have to show you all the maps. I have them all superimposed. I can show you Alexandria 1953 to now, and you'll see these annexations that just follow a roadway. So the state law they got rid of that. Because what people were doing is they wanted to get a project and they go right down a highway and just grab that one thing. So all it is the highway and a piece of property and has no other connection to that city. And so they've tried to push away from that, but that's what it looks like on 28. So think about Kelly, think about where everything is, and you've got 28, you got the Coliseum here, you have Versailles and all that that's well disking, developing with, you know, it's got density to it. But everything else are pockets.
Mr. Canelo, and Mayor, I heard you saying that in the future, the farmland that's going to be coming up, air property and all, and think about those subdivisions that are going that direction, $400,000 houses, how well do you think that's going to be received by the neighbors, those communities that's going to have a sewer pond out there by them? How far back would you have to place a system like that?
Well, that's part of why we have to do the study, but you definitely strategically locate these big sewer lift stations as collector sites. So you have a sewer lift station, then you lay a big trunk main for so many 1,000 feet, mile, whatever it is, so they can tie into it. But those have to be strategically located too, and have to make sense. So that's the reason that we get engineers involved and do the hydraulic studies for those areas. Ms. Perry, I think you kind of asked the question, our utilities end at St. Andrews Links.
Okay.
So we have a 12-inch main that terminates at St. Andrews Link, and also our electric line terminates right there at St. Andrews.
Same
Link.
place.
I think we have maybe a 4-inch gas line that actually goes that far as well. But our infrastructure for utility, they end right at the edge of St. Andrews Links on 20 right now.
Okay.
I didn't know if that's what you were asking, but I wanted to let you know that. Mr. Green, I don't know if I finished,
Well, I was just, you were saying a study in the property that could be in prospect of being purchased, the study that would need to be done. Again, because who wants to build a $500,000 house and have that? And being in Lafayette just a couple of weeks ago, I ran up on the sewer pond, I didn't know what it was in that area, and I said, good God. But it was in a fine area, but, you know, I believe those people, they kind of may not build in that area once they found out that that was there, you know.
So there is a subdivision developed by Mr. Green, that's along Bayou Rapids, and it's a subdivision development, and they actually have a package sewer treatment plant that discharges into Bayou Rapids.
Yeah, I think the name of it is Lakes. I think it's Rayford developed.
And that somebody has to maintain that and inspect it every month, and that's a
Marcus, are you disallowed to build a big station or a big facility in any wet area? Is there a other than getting the wet itself? So if you could get the feds to do it, is there a practical reason why you couldn't build up the area and the access to it at a price where you knew, to answer Mr. Green's important question, where nobody was going to be able to build a subdivision right around it anyway because it's wet? They can't. So you're elevating the station, you're going out in that area, and I know exactly where there's a bunch of spots that fit what I'm describing that would not be fit for residential development, but would be close enough and strategically located to answer Mr. Green's important question. But I don't know if because the lack of mitigation the feds don't want to mitigate anymore. They don't want to say, we'll let you build here, but you got to go do this over there. They want to say no.
And to prove that point, you can actually see it on Versailles and south of Tennyson Oaks, where that wetland starts. It's cost prohibitive to mitigate that and to build it up and to build in those areas.
For a subdivision, but would it be cost prohibitive for us with grants and other things? Let me say it another way. You can get a lot from the feds if you have the right delegation going after them. Right now, we got the strongest we've ever had.
We don't know if federal grants are going to continue to exist as we know.
I understand, but we can't not plan to, that growth has happened regardless of the city or not. That people are going that way, we've got to deal with it. You're going to start having brownouts. You're going to start having sewer issues. You can't move.
If someone uses a restroom at St. Andrews, it probably takes 3 days to get to our plant.
Maybe longer.
I haven't timed it, but
But that's probably true.
You could do a study on that.
Ironically, you would probably have to study, you probably will have to study that, actually.
But, you know, we're saying that, but I've known people that are having problems in Tennyson Oak now with sewer backups.
Mr. Green, we just replaced the lift station out there
Okay.
to address that issue. And that's why we're talking about the overhead electric line and Victoria Electric Station. That's the new lift station that we just invested money in. So that we could resolve that issue.
We'll come back on Tuesday.
Okay, sir.
We can come back to it.
Do y'all need a break? It's fine.
No, we're not breaking.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're almost done.
We're not breaking. We can keep on trucking. No, we're not breaking.
You're almost done with everything but your
5-year plan.
But 5 years not going to be discussed tonight, is it?
Yeah,
You want to, what?
yeah, we got to finish this up.
Would you get through the
Y'all
5
ready?
year?
Let's go.
Y'all, we're spending time on like, this is Nothingville, wastewater.
Yeah. Let's go.
Rabbit hole. No, it's not a rabbit hole.
We need to know.
We went to cover records.
Well, I mean, it's all valuable discussion.
It's all valuable information.
Come back tomorrow.
Page 246 and 247 is environmental services, the environmental lab, if you will.
We just received our certification from the state for our lab. It is certified again for 2 more years, and they did not find any deficiencies. So
That's our water testing.
That's water testing and all the stuff y'all get hammered about. There's the third party telling you.
Say it again, please.
So our testing facility was inspected by the state, they found no deficiencies, and we were recertified for 2 more years. So I think
Yes,
that's
sir.
a great accomplishment for that.
Yeah, my water.
That does not mean, that doesn't mean water that's tested doesn't have deficiencies. It means the folks that we use, everybody else relies on the state, we're certified where we're not doing wrong in what we do. So when y'all are asked to rely on tests,
Yes.
they're doing it right. They don't mind digging the city.
But that doesn't matter, but that doesn't address the brown water.
Brown
though.
water.
No, it doesn't mean there's no brown water.
No.
But brown water also doesn't mean it's dangerous. It can be aesthetic and a problem.
I don't think it should be drinking brown water, though.
No, I agree. I have it in my house.
Yeah.
I had it Monday night at my house.
I like my orange t-shirts.
Speak for yourself on that one, bro.
You get a lot of fake stuff, like we're having.
Chuck, what color?
Pages 253 and 254, utility services. And that concludes the utility fund.
253 and 254.
I think your cookies back there. Let me get a cookie. Let me get a cookie.
You'll bring some back, pass around the snacks.
If you ready to roll, we can get into sanitation fund.
Yes.
You don't remember?
Let's see if I can get this loose, Chuck, I'll tell you.
263.
Mr. Carpenter said he's never had brown water at his house. He's a block from me, and I've had it.
I've never had brown water.
So what does that tell us, just like our utility complaints? That
it's
what
colorblind.
percentage of them are on the customer side of the meter, and what percentage are on the city side? We don't know, but we know that there's a lot on the customer side.
Well, another thing too is turn on your hot water and see if it's brown, turn on your cold water and see if it's brown.
Could be hot water.
A lot of times it's the hot water tank.
Oh.
It
Not
can
just
rust
a
up.
lot. 80%. 80% of the problem is
DJ.
that. I mean,
Sanitation.
Come on, Mr. Johnson, we read. We read it, Mr. Johnson, for sanitation.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Page 260 is revenue. Sanitation expense is 263, 264.
Oh, chips are nothing. They gotta do better.
I can Uber eat some crumble cookies.
Uber service.
So we have 50 employees? We're up on the, Mr. Gill?
We got 50 budgeted.
Okay.
Sanitation.
Yeah, we got about 6 vacant refuse collectors now. Actually, we're doing a little better in that area. We usually carry more vacancies than that.
I didn't believe Gary yesterday when he said everybody's new every week. Until I saw about 6 new ones this morning. I was like, damn, Gary's right.
Well, he got some.
He gets to get low.
Okay, DJ.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that, man.
Zoo revenue is on 265, and the expense goes through 269.
When does the new zoo director start, or have they already
Make it.
made it?
Say go to mile.
Sir?
Say go to mile.
Sure.
The zoo, they're not, I know, I'm not knocking folk cats, I love folk cats, they get a lot of labor and everything. But they got to the point where they were building stuff and just extra stuff that we had to maintain. And we kind of made them stay in their own footprint.
That's been our push. We talked about it yesterday, and they're way better at it.
Okay. What about certification? You gonna get that back?
Accreditation?
We're trying to get the new director,
Accreditation.
we're trying to get the new director back in place, but we're not allowed to reapply for 1 year, and that's not up yet. After we get the new director in place, and actually the assistant director, full-time veterinarian, which is part of the deal also,
Yeah.
we won't be in a position to reapply until we get that.
The new assistant director will be a full-time veterinarian?
Yes, and a full-time veterinarian, which is a big deal with the accreditation.
Pays the
And we
guy.
have that person?
No, we're
Assistant,
advertising-
you're waiting?
We have a director, we're
A director.
advertising for the assistant director
Okay.
and a veterinarian.
We have
And they're hard to find, it took me almost a year to find the director.
Are we having any applications for the veterinary?
We have some from time to time, yes.
Oh, wow.
But they're usually in some kind of internship or rotation, and they got like a year left in it or something. I mean, I don't know.
They ain't here long.
I can't get them for like a year, so I don't even know why they would apply for something they can't, they're not available to come do.
Emily, we thought you was coming back with some meat. Meat?
Yes, on page 270 is the revenue for the golf course. And the expenses for the golf course run through page 276. Clubhouse and golf course maintenance.
So it's fee for servicing 700,000.
They've been on a slow
All the
climb.
things we give food to, it does perform.
Yeah.
It takes the least.
So if you look at its charge for services, it finished at 803 last year.
About 300,000, 600,000.
So it's interfund assistance, which you have to do, it's an asset that we have to, versus what it does, if you compared it to the zoo, or buses, or anything else, and when people attack, why do you need to help the golf course, if you compare it to other public, it actually,
I was out there last week and I was talking to the management team, and right now they're at 99% capacity,
26,000 rand.
26,000 rounds. They can't handle, they can't
in the
handle.
Manor House tournament right now is
Right.
a woman's,
I'm
it's
going
a
there
woman's
tonight.
pro
They got
tournament
six-
out there right now. It's
They
pretty-
got 16 different countries represented and over 300 women in it, in town this week.
That sounds good, but we're still giving them $400,000 though, right?
Yeah, but they're making 7 and they're creating a quality of life that you,
Just get everybody on the same ratio as we do with the golf course, and we'll be fine money.
What does that mean?
I mean,
Well,
what if
we're not giving
buses,
them hardly any money
what if
compared to
you
everything
look at everything else that we subsidize and made a comparison? It's the other way.
Make a comparison to the buses of the zoo.
Take a look at page 277, y'all. It makes the point. Also, the point about the utility system. That 388401, that's the transfers. Now, bus is supported by the utility system directly.
What page are you on?
It's 277.
Okay.
Yeah,
388,401. Transfers utility fund.
3,200,000
Could not find that one.
compared to, and that's the comparison. You take a look above at the charges for services, the passenger revenue, what the buses self-generate, it's pretty small.
Yes.
What's the total number on that?
235 or so is what we got budgeted, Joe.
235, so less than 10%.
We get some, and that varies the federal grant support that we get. Depends on what they give us. Sometimes it's pretty good, and we can cut back at major budget amendment on the utility support, sometimes not.
Regulations for them are pretty stringent too.
They are.
We don't have any choice of doing things that we have to do. Have to do it their way.
And the expenses on bus run from 279 through 281.
Now, we're kind of like utilities in that we are operating at about a third short.
How much?
They're sure.
So we short drivers or?
We've got 8 driver vacancies, yeah. We got, I think there's 21 or 22, 23 positions, and we're 8 short. And
Sure on
we just raised-
mechanics,
we pay
too.
them $16 an hour, but we're still short.
Well, I know we've looked at it before, but do we need the big buses? I mean, do we really?
No, we haven't bought any big buses since we've been back.
We're buying those intermediate and smaller ones.
The loader, the
I
ground.
haven't bought them big.
No, those 16 passenger cutout vans, they seem to do a lot better.
Yeah,
I think the city got a number of those large 35-foot buses during COVID, but we don't need them. We don't need to buy any more, in my opinion.
The
Never
operations
fool.
of the two different types of buses, comparatively speaking, what's the difference in cost? Is it much less to operate the small
Oh, yeah.
buses?
Oh, yes, sir.
Less diesel,
Much less.
cause less damage to the roads.
Yeah.
Less wrecking.
But It's not like we're filling up the buses anymore.
No, when I see them, they not.
Mr. Gill?
And the ridership never really came back since COVID, like a lot of other things did.
Yeah,
That's nationwide. I saw that the other day.
FDA will tell you that at all systems.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gill, how many handicap buses do we have?
Mr. Green, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's several ADA accessible. Most of them are the smaller, the 16 passenger.
The reason I'm asking the question, because I had someone call me, and they were having problems scheduling, and I don't know how the scheduling going, but they were told that we didn't have enough vans or buses or drivers to help.
Well, enough drivers is probably true. We have street department employees that have the credentials, the CDLs to drive.
Yes.
They drive in the evenings for overtime. The hospital runs, that's where they use the ADA accessible vans mostly, and to, like the VA in Kingsville, that run in Pineville. But I don't know that we're short on ADA accessible vans.
Okay.
The only thing we're really short on is drivers.
It's, okay, so we have the vehicle, we don't have the drivers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a question there. How much does it cost to move a bus stop? I think you and I had this conversation on Culpeper. We have the homeless veterans. We have a whole bunch of them that we put in those apartments right there on the right side, be coming from my house on Culpeper, and they have to walk all the way to, man, they got to walk a long way. I think all the way to the back of the car dealership. And those guys, I mean, those are disabled vets, and we were trying to get a bus stop somewhere, and they come out their apartment.
I asked them to look at that on Culpeper.
Right.
I don't have a report on it. Adding a bus stop, it's a matter of letting FTA know what you want to do, because they have to approve whenever we take a bus stop up or add a bus stop. And we don't want to disrupt the route. And if there's a way to do that without disrupting the route, then there's no problem.
Okay, could you look to that for me? And let
Yes,
me know?
sir.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I have a similar question. Off Orchard Loop over there by Kellyland,
Say that again?
about adding a bus stop to, I think the street's Orchard Loop.
Well, there's some stops out there. Now, they're not all benches. Some of them are signs.
Well, I'm told that people who live off Orchard Loop have to walk to the corner where,
They have to go to Sugar House.
no, it's not, no, north side. Kellyland. They have to walk to where the Burger King is.
We have a bus stop at the airport. I think that's about where that is.
Well, okay, I think that the name of this, it's a city subdivision right off,
It's on Highway 1.
yeah, it's across from Kellyland. It's a relatively,
That's Walnut
Across the railroad tracks?
It's not in the city.
it's in the city. It's in the city.
I think that was Morris.
I know it's Orchard Loop.
There's a couple of stops out that way, but it probably wouldn't be feasible to try to weave in and out of neighborhoods.
Well, I guess my concern is folks have to walk down, I can't think of the name of the road, but,
Buses don't pick you up at your house.
well, if you are going,
Is that the
49
new
now,
subdivision back behind Kelly Lane?
it's behind, it's a
That's
road that
England
runs.
Drive.
I don't,
We got one. Yeah, they got one. We got one right there.
That's that new subdivision.
well, it's a new subdivision, but, the renters, but nonetheless, there was concern that folks had to walk from where the subdivision is to
The front, the highway.
to Burger King, the edge of where, I can't, the names are escaping me.
Mr. Logan, I'd be happy to look at it for you.
Okay, please, yeah, I'll give you a call about that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Oh,
now we're
185.
5-year capital, page 185, y'all.
Yes.
Last thing we got to do.
One more.
185.
The 25-26 is the one that y'all would consider adopting. The subsequent 4 years, that's just for planning purposes. They'll come up in their years when that happens.
First comment says budget, CO is budget carryover. That's money from the budget we're in, that's gonna go over.
That wasn't spent.
Exactly.
Right, and then 25, 26 is the only real money. Remember, it's a 5-year capital plan. Everything after 25, 26 is,
Theoretically.
well, I wouldn't call it. So I do the P1s, your ordinance, we do priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, priority indeterminate. But when we don't have a 5-year plan, as we're all suffering from with the last Saturday and what we're worried about, it's even more important to look at that first column and think about that money being very limited. So reserve for relocation is something that there's some room to play. It's got $1 million in it, another 100,000. The city hall renovation, there's a carryover of 1.5. We keep using that and kicking it down the road. There's no, look, I'm sorry. That's the AC. That's all, you see those units out on the street by the Bentley, that's a major one that has to happen. We've already robbed what I was saying earlier, the big city hall project has been taken for lots of other things, the LSUA and all that.
That's,
But I hope y'all see the,
That's the deck out.
oh yeah, the plaza and all that is, you got stalactites and stalagmites for real in the bottom. I'm not joking. They're mineral-based drip that are on the ground or forming up and dripping out.
Slowly falling in and rusting down.
And so that's a real issue for us. That's gonna fall, that's a problem when you see all the rebar and all that.
Every day we don't do something, it gets more expensive to fix.
Information upgrades, critical, that's gonna be a P1. That is money that is carrying over and then added to get a real number for IT and IS and all the information upgrades that we need. We've got a carryover, we're leaving building improvements where it was.
Roof replacement, what's that for?
All over.
All over, all of our different,
Any replacements
all the
as
different
needed.
buildings just constantly weathered and having problems.
Except the fire stations.
Red River Improvement Venture is not LSUA, which you see down there, it's 3 million. That's all the riverfront project and everything, plus the money that would redevelop Weiss's, right? If we ever to move on that. So, we've got to have, that carryover has to be there to finish these projects. Where are they now? Red River Improvement on the River Act stuff.
We're on pretty much the final portion of phase 2.
How many phases are there?
Budgeted, there was phase 1 that was completed, and phase 2, there was a hypothetical phase 3, but there is no funding for that.
So, but how many phases in total are there?
There's 3, but there's only 2 that have been budgeted.
Okay.
So, and that's also thanks to the partnership with the Highway Commission for providing some funding for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not much of our money.
That's bigger than waterway money.
And then you've got riverfront improvements again, 844,000 and another 100 coming forward. Transfer station, landfill, 2,100, what's that one?
2,100,000.
2.1 million.
Yeah, 22 million, 2.1 million.
Setting aside our own transfer
And
station.
that's still just carrying over?
Yes, sir.
I
Been
just want
carrying
to make
over
sure
since
that
it
was,
was
so
appropriate.
we had set that aside at some time back. We have a terrible time competing on the commercial side, and now us too. There's just nowhere to take trash in an intermediate sense. You need a transfer station to get to a landfill, so you need another place that's more strategically located. There's only one, and there was a law written around it, so there could be only one, and we
Can we get
desperately.
Can we get the law change, number 1?
We
Number
think
2,
we've got a place where you could do it.
Number 2, can we have some other entities join in with us, like maybe Pineville, LeCount, Forest Hill?
And private sector folks would want to compete for it. You'd have companies like Waste Management and other people that would want to compete and co-manage and do things. This is a huge thinking out the, like, this is something we need to be talking about.
We talked about
For
it.
resilience. So that's why that's there. Remember, we're just on enterprise. This is our stuff, guys. This is city infrastructure
internal to
itself.
us.
It's internal to us. Don't think, where's my part, this is internal to us stuff. City compound, you'll see, that's always in need, but that's not an unreasonable number. The animal shelter probably could use a lot more than that. That's our 500, Cynthia, that I'm leaving in for any switch, whether it's doing something there or the funds to leave that spot to help us do something at Rice's, whatever we need. I left a placeholder for the Nehemiah incubator, transitioning away from where it is or to add where it is, if that some deal was made there. So if you take that and you look at what we have in the Red River Improvement Venture up there, you've got a lot of money to deal with the issues down here in the downtown area. Then y'all see the 3 million is in there for LSUA. It's critical that that money is all there so that the state, where all the matches are coming from, can see you've appropriated the money. It has to be appropriated or it's not real.
And that's the property on Jackson Street.
That's the AC Buchanan and
First Federal,
the doctor's office that used to be there, that property.
First Federal.
Merle,
That they're gonna be building next to it, right? That's the.
Yeah, right next to it.
The 1 million is me putting in a big placeholder for major IS that we're redoing. We've got some multi-decade old systems that we're changing everything, moving to a much more secure, much more advanced. Malcolm wasn't here, but the rest of y'all remember my first day on the job. I had a presentation for y'all to talk about all those things in executive session. That's what that's about.
it gets no better.
And I think I mentioned this, but this is the 580, that's the new money y'all will be appropriating.
Yeah, so
That will
you
be
get to the
added
17, yeah.
The 17 that y'all already got through the
Roughly $18 million.
So we've got 17 there that are projects we've been grading out as important, and we've only added 580 to give more room with the risk of the renewal and all that in place. We didn't add a lot there so that we could deal with some of the other ones if you turn the page. So that's public enterprise. All right, and then the next page is drainage. You'll see the huge 14 in the Chatelain overflow structure, Cynthia. That's under carryover, and another million added to keep showing we're serious about that, to any matches in the feds and everybody else. You'll see all of those ditch repair ones listed below there at 4.2. And you'll see the residential up above it at 1.5 and a new 375,000.
For ditch closures?
There's a specific Willow Glen that's carrying over of 840,000. Horseshoe Canal hardening, I don't know if that hardening is in Gary or, I wonder what part of that is. We'll have to pull the spec. I would guess it's either in Gary and Cynthia or Cynthia.
Horseshoe? For Gary.
I'm hoping if that's finished, that carryover will go back in. That's a lot. Can't
It's got
imagine
a lot
what
of
on
state funding in it too.
It does?
Was that state watershed?
You got all,
Is it the box,
So
the
you
box
take
culvert?
that with
You think it's done? That'll get recaptured? Okay, good. If DJ leaves those in there.
And where's it?
I think it's completed. I think that was the box culvert.
I'm trying to figure out, I think that's my district.
By the traffic circle, that, yeah.
Right between Home Depot and Lutheran.
That's the one that
That's
drains.
Gary's.
Popped
Because I-
money for.
It wasn't, I would have worded differently. Okay,
Right to the other side of the circle, where it was.
Right.
okay.
Yeah, so that's not much. That's just 229. The 840,000 Willow Glen drainage,
I think that was also part of the fairgrounds. I think that they're largely working in the same footprint. I think that's what Mike told me.
and the fairground machine shop flood control is down there at 4.2. It's a big one.
And that has a lot of state funding in it.
So we can come back to drainage as we get to the other ones. Y'all may want to talk more on streets. you know, we left we're suffering a little to plan out compared to what we normally do, but you can still see, we're planning out each year. There's only a certain amount you can get to, but there's lots of money left. So there, in Sugar House Phase 1, there's 8.8 carrying, so that's plenty to be carrying forward for what you can move. There's street drainage, sidewalk repairs at 1.4.
Do we have any idea what streets and sidewalks repair,
That's a generic.
That's the generic one, but I brought with me Cynthia to go over specific things.
we can wait. I can
Yeah.
just meet with you. We can wait.
We will.
Okay.
We can re-rate them internally, but that's our generic one to have money available. Things come
We
up,
can
panels
just-
break, et cetera.
Okay.
All right, and then, where was I? Let's see. You'll see there's a parenthetical, a minus, right? That's the North 16th, Malcolm. That's your bridge. That's money that
The
you'll
state-
then see that's left over, so that's back to us, and you'll see we made DJ go ahead and cancel it out. So in the next year, what he's showing you there is that he's acting as though there's money there, so it cancels, right?
That's MPO money, right?
We spent more than we budgeted.
I'm sorry, we spent more, he's having to add it, I apologize.
Having to clean it
We
up.
spent more than we were supposed to. The bridge cost more, I apologize. Thank you, Bob.
So you ain't.
So he's adding it in the next year to get it canceled out and finished.
Clean up.
It's zero.
Zero. So you see the same amount?
Yeah, for 25, 26.
I don't see,
On line 261.
That's
I don't see Vance and, Wine Street.
So you can be, that can be taken off. What happens is, there'll be the habit of leaving these names in there forever, even when they're done, and I'm wanting him to clean that out, so it's, taking those weeds out, and you see that they're done. So what we did was made us do that.
Normally, we clean those up and make the budget. We hit a few at the,
MPO, asphaltic street rehab, that's the big money from the MPO. We obviously get the lion's share for the whole MPO, that's 4.8. Foisey has a big portion in it. And again, we can come back.
I guess the company needed to spend more money on that bridge too.
it's completed.
No,
I know.
that's a,
Well,
we had 11.
We had a little
Oh, yeah,
left over.
11 extra.
That's just closing the project.
I consider Bryn Mawr, that's the zoo, I consider that a 3-district bridge.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Which one?
At the zoo, that
About a-
connection.
Yeah.
No matter whose district proper it's in, that area is a 3-district touch point that affects all 3 of the districts, Cynthia,
Mine.
Gary, and Liz.
District 5.
Which bridge are we talking about?
By the park.
There's several bridges by the park.
Okay, behind, where.
You know where the big field is? The big island,
I know a Big Island.
right here. And there's
That-
one on
that
this side,
connects all your
one road to Bayou goes
streets,
down there,
all
the zoo's
other
over here.
Side of the bayou.
You know where the walking
No,
trail
before
is?
Billy, no, Billy Holland's over here. This is the one right here on the main
Right on the
street, Fillmore. It goes all the way to Lee Street.
It's Babe
I mean,
Drive.
It's Babe Ruth Drive.
Baby,
Oh, yeah, that one
Babe
just
Ruth-
replaced.
yeah, just replaced.
Just replaced, okay.
Yeah, when you turn down by Bringhurst.
This on one side, Babe Ruth on.
And everybody,
That 11,000 just
Yep.
and that had to be replaced. That was just.
The 11,000 is just closing that account. All right?
So again, that's $1,865,000 new money that y'all will be appropriating for streets.
Which one, Trey?
The bottom line, where it says total streets, the appropriation of $1,865,000 is what those numbers add up to. That's how much new money y'all are putting in.
That's the net.
this year.
So in a perfect world, your capital taxes that do this create about a little over 5, what do they create a year in new money?
Just a little over 5.
No, it's 5 and 5, so, or 5 and 6, it's 40, so about 11. So you can go back, just so y'all get an idea of how we think through it. If you go to page 187 and you take what Trey just said, that number, and go add each of those news through the whole thing, you're getting an idea of how you get to what is roughly about 11 in taxes. If the renewal doesn't happen, the one we're driving y'all crazy about, that's 5 out of that. That's what we're having a plan, looking 5 years forward, to be super conservative right now.
And we're chipping some of the 11 to utility too.
And we chipped out utility to
help
make,
them out.
to do that. You know, we
Repeat that,
added,
Mr.
we
Gibbs?
sent it to utilities to help them.
I was asking Mr. Gibbs to repeat what he was saying about the,
The tax that is going to be expired, the village tax for drainage, and that didn't get renewed by the voters 18 months ago, that will run out in '27, that's what's paying for this in this budget. But it will not be here as a revenue source if the millage tax does not get renewed.
okay.
Because it's about in half.
And so if you add up those to get to this 11, and then you think about what we sent to utilities to stand it up, you'll see how short we really are, and especially planning
We gotta
the
finish
risk
this.
of that renewal. But I have some good news
So
too.
we'll have to come back.
All right, the next ones are real easy. Police, yeah, just moving one to the next.
Exactly.
Fire, that's a big truck.
Yep.
That's pretty good price.
0.6 million.
And we're taking delivery of one next week.
Within 2 weeks. The issue with the fire trucks, it takes nearly 5 years to build. So if we order.
5 years?
Yeah.
We have to order it.
I was telling
I
y'all,
remember that in
it's a
COVID.
nightmare. And y'all
Yeah.
have to have it fully allocated. So it's a capital item, so you can't say, well, put it out in years, y'all can't do it.
So you mean,
have to,
it
all
takes
the
a
money has to be there.
manufacturer 5 years to put one
We're at
together.
52 months right now.
Yes, ma'am.
It's worse than that. You have to show that you have the money at any moment for that whole period.
I
They won't
understand.
see that
Or they
purchase order
won't, or they
before
won't
build
do the
anything.
purchase order, and you could technically violate state law. You have to
Oh,
do
yeah,
it.
5 years,
You got that.
dang.
To hold that money, you could wait on something else and use. You can't. You gotta show that commitment in capital the whole time.
Every city has a different.
Are they made in,
The truck that's coming, is it a pumper truck or a ladder truck?
Wisconsin?
This one's made in
That truck was
It's a little
ordered
one.
either 2021
It's a little
or 22.
Okay.
And what's the life cycle of one of these trucks?
Depends on where I put it at, but typically 15 to 20 years.
15 to 20 on a pumper, a little longer on a aerial.
Aerials are 20, maybe 20 years, 25, depending on what station they're at and how often they run.
We have 2 aerials and 6 pumpers, chief?
You have 3 aerials, one
Three.
of them's a reserve.
Okay.
Oh, if I may just interject, Mayor, the Broadway Fire Station, what is the plans for it for the city? Because I've had people inquire about it, the property.
Oh, the old
one we closed
The
down.
old one, the one we closed, not the new one.
And what we need to do.
We've just recently been having some discussions about that, and we're exploring what options to take. Right now, it is shuttered. There's an EPA air quality monitoring station on that site at this particular point, and it has been up for the last year right now, so there's not been any hard decisions made.
The building, the foundation of the building is bad.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to
Raise it.
do some, to raise it.
Let's roll.
Okay. I've been asked, just what you can't do, and I've been asked as people come to me and say, hey, can I make it my church, or hey, can I have it, or whatever, and that you can't give that away. I get that. Yeah,
I
I get that.
understand, but not giving it, but people have been inquiring about purchasing it, so I'm just saying it's sitting there. I know the homeless has been congregating there, but I think Mr. Caffrey and them have had it boarded, but I was just, people have inquired about purchasing the property, and it's just sitting there deteriorating, so that would be,
Well, if there's issues with it, to surplus it for purchase would just lead to a legacy law, would lead to problems for us, probably. But let's get, Michael, get more clear on that. I don't know enough to be conversing with you. 190, page 190 is a little bit of a focus page for us. So that's 7 million. Because it's Parks and Rec and all those other needs where you saw new money, they rate higher, P1s and P2s. You have that carryover. Cynthia, there's the park and playground equipment at 893. We can move more of that in a year. And I had Tanya create for me to go over with y'all parts of how we would rate it. So if y'all, I don't want to take it all the way back to the front, but but we probably got a $1.6 million. So let's act like you had this as is and this was where we were. And we don't want to plan that future because we're worried about the renewal. And then we convince each other that we ought to bet on a new 1.6 at least, maybe 2 million that we would add back in the budget before final adoption. Okay? So this is what we're hypothesizing or pretending. My thought always was if that passed, that we would start this Reignite program. We would take that 7 million you saw earlier on the sales tax that's rolling off. We would go out with a new spark that we would call Reignite, or whatever we decide to name it, that's the placeholder name. And it would involve roughly the same thing. A new 15 on our ad valorem, 15 million, nothing for it to handle. We graduated it out early the last time. On the sales tax, 35 again, easy to do, roll that 7 in, our note's affordable, we can drive the car. So there's some pretty serious money that you put together.
50 million, right?
And you could adjust the sales tax, maybe you do 25 and 15, whatever. We would look for other funding sources, and then we add some other capital outlay every year. You have your regular, what we just did, that adds to it. We get up to a $80 to a $96 million big shot again. That gives a big shot in the arm for the city, tells people that we're serious and know where we're going, shows vision, we've got the projects ready, enter CSRS and all these things we want to do. We can roll this out. So what my mindset was one of the signature so think about how Spark worked. In every Spark corridor, there were 3. In every restoration area, cultural restoration area, there were 3. You had a public safety connection, like a new fire station. So, Jules, there was the one that replaced Broadway there. Obviously, there was the one at the end of Masonic. That was that anchor. So in every area of the 3 CRAs, a public safety, a major transportation change, where we did a lot of road work, sidewalks, walkability and everything. Bolton Avenue, your district, redid the center there, all of that. And by the way, there was a reaction to all that. People cleaned up. That's been one of the most successful that we were told nobody would ever buy into it, and they did. All the way to Clash at the end and all that campus, all that expansion, Red Cross, everything. So they can work. Then Gary, we did the Deerfield Park, we did a bunch over there. So imagine a new set of those where we come together and we have a transportation piece, we've got them identified, I'm about to publish and send them down to you. We have some other public safety pieces anchored by this new academy we want to do for the police. I don't know how to explain this, but you got a police chief and a fire chief. I've never seen those 2 offices work like these guys do together. But there's a lot of joint things we want to do there to be a place where public safety people come to train, learn beyond what you do in just a regular academy. So those are some of the ideas. I think the Masonic corridor is a big one. First of all, it's a 3-district toucher, which we love, because that gets all youth, it gets 3 people pretty happy.
That's a city touch.
And it's a city project. And so we have some of those, what we call citywides. What's an example of a citywide in the old Spark? New signage, new directional signage, new wayfinder. Go look down Masonic, you'll see how beautiful all that was. We would extend that, so that's a citywide. Citywide could be a big drainage one like Cynthia's. That's a huge one, but you get the idea of how Reignite would work. What you're doing is taking a package of things that normally you spend decades talking and milling about, and you get them done. And we did it before. It creates jobs. Up front is construction of the jobs. It shows a lot of activity. It gets your citizenry back pumped up. Takes some of this, what's going on away. And then the other big part is recreation projects in it. And that's what I was wanting to talk about now. Is public safety, transportation, recreation. So on the Masonic corridor, bring it. On the parks, this is Tanya in my rating. I think she did a good job. If I take Bringhurst, Charles Smith, Cheatham, Deborah Bowman, Enterprise, Franco, Hunter, Harmon, Helen Black, Lincoln, and Mason, they've got a priority ranking that the internal folks did, your consultant did, but I rated them this way of those, and it happened to fit all their highs. Number 1, Helen Black. No.
Yes.
Yes, Helen Black is
Yes.
our number one. So Tanya and I think Helen Black is most in need, most ripe for change, most that can affect a bunch of people at one time.
Need
So
some basketball goals.
Helen Black was number one. Number two, Charles Smith. Charles Smith is a great pocket park. When it was done well. It needs absolutely totally new equipment right now. And the idea is to have two kinds, an older age kid and a younger. They want to connect some more walkability in it, and there was another feature you said,
A pavilion.
and a pavilion built there, because that's a good park. And I think people will use that and enjoy it. Number three is a big one, a non-pocket, so an active park. Franco Hunter is high need on everything, high priority, high need. And so following that, I did a three just to give you a taste of how we think through it, and you'd see our commitment, where and how. I think Deborah Bowman is, another where we could do some things. You got to be smarter there and think about what you want to attract and how you want to do it. One of our favorites is unfortunately one that gets torn up and just destroyed. We need to hit the city park splash pad. It's due to be redone. Everybody enjoys that. But where we have another great splash pad, Malcolm, it's destroyed. If we go put anything in, it's destroyed. We either need to rethink, because it's a wonderful park, the space and everything. We either need to rethink what we do there.
Can you put PEX instead of brass?
I mean,
PEX pipe instead of brass.
I mean, it's the wiring. They would just tear that out. They want all the electric. Anything that conducts and sends something somewhere, they won't.
Copper, anything.
Copper.
It's tough. But look, we don't have to get caught. We don't have to solve that right now. I wanted you to know that's a perplexing one that we're trying to work through. But it would rate high, and just because we don't have an answer to how to resolve that, which I would call a CPTED problem, crime prevention through environmental design, just because I can't solve that today doesn't mean it's not important. But shelving that, what we would say right now is Helen Black, Charles Smith, Franco Hunter, and then think through some Cheatham needs and other stuff. Cheatham was a high, according to the consultant, but we think that's what you would take and hit. Tanya's also gone through and value engineered some of these herself, so when you talk to your consultant, right, they have everything at a certain level. It's even the staff has learned they can go through and go, we don't need, that's not the most important thing. But a possible budget to really hit a lot of this is around $2 million. And after the talk yesterday that I was so heartened by, we're willing to take some more risk because you guys are, and we want to share in that risk with you. And the philosophical thought to have between now and our public hearing on April 8th is, what do we think? Are we wanting to move toward that reignite as a team? And if the answer is yes, then it gives me more ammunition of why I go out to the public and tell them, all I want to hear is streets, drainage, whatever, and I'm telling them about recreation. And it makes it easier to sell that. We sold it once on the tax. People have to know that balance, like the golf course. It does pretty well. What you really don't want is to not have the links, which is, by the way, a diverse as far as golf. I don't play golf, so I can easily say it. I've never played around in my life, but I know what that means to people to have that. And to not have it would be a terrible, it would tell people this city you can't have a golf course. So I think what I'm trying to tell you is there's a real way to go push these recreation projects if we all can agree. They are a product too, they definitely are. And think about how to, okay, I didn't get the one I want now, but Cynthia needs this one now and it makes sense. So we're not saying we've made the most sense. This is our thoughts. It doesn't mean they're yours. But the real idea is if I put $2 more million in my budget before it comes down to you in 5-year capital, we're weighing $2 more million that we don't have and that I think is a risk on this renewal, big time on the I talked about yesterday. and we're putting it in recreation, which would never rate P1 or P2. It can't. It can't beat drainage, it can't beat those harder needs. So that's my homework for y'all, to think about that over the next few days and have some individual talks and group talks that don't offend the open meetings rules and figure out what do we want to do? Because I'm willing to take a lot bigger bet based on what y'all told me yesterday.
I think yesterday, it spoke for, itself. We both, I'm not sure about Councilman Green, but we agreed that we know what the renewal taxes is for. It's for the drainage, it's for the sidewalks, it's for the things that the people need done, it's for the brown water. So if that's what we have to do, Malcolm has already had his meeting to assure the people what the renewal is for. I'm next to have my meeting, and after my meeting is Gary's meeting.
Yeah.
So we know what we want done. Now, we're going to do our part. We know that recreation is a big part that the people in our district want. And I know that I want it, and I know that the people in our district want recreation, and I want to see it done. It's been 5 years since we had equipment in the parks, and it's overdue. And once again, you said what you was going to do, we said what we're going to do, and we're going to hold up to the end of our bargain. It's no doubt in our mind about that. So we're ready to see equipment in the park, like all of us are ready to see the renewal of the taxes. All we can do is sell and speak to our constituents about what the renewal is about.
Yeah.
And that's about getting things done for them in the district and for the city. And you are going to come and tell them about the things, the equipment for the parks and those kind of things. I mean, it's about working together, and that's what we need the people to see, that we're working together. We're trying to build this city. We're trying to make this city thrive. And that's what the people need to see, us working together to bring a city to life, to make it thrive, and to give our children a place to go and have recreation, so that this city can have a quality of life, a better quality of life. That is what we want.
Yeah.
And so we can't do that separated. It has to be done together. It's no more division. It's no more division. And
I don't detect any.
and that's, and the people have to see that. And if they can't see that with these 2 days, and not just with these 2 days, if they can't see that with the previous meetings that we have been having, and with these 2 days, then I don't know what it would take. We're about doing business for the city. We're about doing business for the people of this city now. We are on a mission. We have a vision. You have a vision. We have a vision. And we're going to make this city grow. And we're going to make this city thrive. And we're going to do this together.
Yes.
No matter what people say. And we're not focusing anymore on what they say. That's out. We did that 4 years ago. And we're focusing on the vision that God has given us. Because we don't, no matter what people think, God gives us vision. We don't do these things by ourselves. We think that we do, but God gives us visions. And so these visions, where we're working together right now, this is not all about you, Mayor, me, and Malcolm, and Jules, and Lizzie. It's about God. He's showing us something different, and we're going to have to do something different. And it's going to work.
Can we do naming rights for the parks?
Can you get what?
Naming rights for the park.
You can't.
No, I'm just thinking, they got $500,000 to put the name on the Coliseum.
All right,
What
so,
you want?
Hey,
What you want?
I have a question in that same vein.
I'm just playing.
Because, I think we do really, I feel like we all want to support each other. And like when Malcolm had his town hall meeting, I did not go, because I did not want to I was unsure about having a quorum at our neighborhood meeting.
Well, we can do that, but we're
So-
not talking city business though, right?
But we are, so I just want some clarification on how we can support
Yeah,
each
y'all-
other at our neighborhood meetings.
y'all can go, Trey, don't let me get a foul, because I don't want to be their advisor. Y'all can all be present, as long as you're not, I guess, y'all can all arrive at a restaurant and eat. You can't conduct city business. The problem with the neighborhood group meeting is it's all about city business. So if a quorum shows and there's interaction to discuss policy for our next meeting, theoretically, you created
You're in
the
violation.
problem. But
You couldn't have a quorum and receive information as a quorum of people.
And I would be worried they're receiving,
And so you kind of do need to be careful a little
Yes.
bit about the perception that you're conducting city business. Now, it's obviously, for instance, if Mr. Lauderdale has a neighborhood meeting and one or two of y'all want to come, that's fine. The problem comes in when the public gets up and begins telling you what they want, and there's a quorum of you present. Does
Yes.
that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I was worried about.
So how you do that to
Shifts?
exactly, that's what I was going to say. So we have this meeting, and my next meeting is going to be the first Monday of next month. It's going to be at the Acadian Village Neighborhood Meeting. And Mr. McCall is a stickler. It's just going to be an hour.
Yes.
And he is a stickler. And so it's going to be from 5 to 6. And so you laugh, and yeah, so you can do like, Lisa, if you want to come, you be there at 5 o'clock and you stay maybe 10 minutes and you leave.
What we do is, Steve,
but Cynthia, just so y'all know, Chuck just said it, and he's right. I do it when I do my briefings, just
If we
to
notice
cover y'all,
meetings.
so I notice them like it's you. Because I figure if you're all here and you start talking to me, you're not voting, so it doesn't require the second set of rules, but I do a full public notice. If y'all are having a town hall, you could notice
But
each
do
of
they have
them,
to be?
and I'll go.
Well,
And you don't have to vote or do anything, you're
They
sitting
have
in
to
an
be-
audience.
But they have to be recorded or
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
video?
Not if you're not voting or doing anything like that.
Well, we're
It
not.
should be made between a town hall meeting and a neighborhood meeting. There is a distinction.
I think
Okay.
that's right.
What is, so like.
It's not that it's necessarily legal, it's that if y'all are holding as at a town hall, then we need to help y'all make a distinction legally how you want.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk
Okay.
about that later.
Great.
But that needs to happen quick, because yours is coming up.
Yeah.
We'll start tomorrow. Can I take y'all to page 16 real quick? I just want to resolve this, what just
16?
happened. Page 16, I know, it's
Okay.
crazy. Go to
Way up in the
16.
front.
Keep your finger where it was, so you'll go better go back.
Shit.
I don't have a system.
Page 16.
Yes, you do.
It's after 15.
We wore it out.
All right, when you get to page 16, the first thing I said when we first started this yesterday was that almost bottom right number 1676.
We got it on the line?
There's your unappropriated excess, there's your 1676 for what we just discussed.
You said
I'm gonna move
available
that money
funds.
into real money instead of holding it for the emergency, based on the good faith that we're all representing to each other what we want to do. Tanya, you're gonna program a new 1676. We'll start circulating that and get it right. Look, if other people have stuff, I mean, Chuck, you may say, well, what about me? I mean,
We have been.
send me whatever. You know, you had someone do a huge donation, and that, we're thankful for that. Roy Martin did a huge thing, made that park beautiful, but that's good. That was a benefit to the city that we got.
Well, it made all the other parks have more money.
It made all the other parks have more.
And that park's used by everyone.
That was the point,
What
and it
did you
is
say?
used by everybody. He
Oh.
said it made the other parks have more money, so
And that park's used by everyone.
I don't know how y'all would want to do this. I don't, Trey, you make
It's
sure
used by
this is not a walking quorum. I don't think it is at all. Could I put a whiteboard down in their office and draw out what Tanya has and let them come and make comments? We can make it a public record later. You take a picture of it, it doesn't matter.
on their suggestion, individual suggestion.
Well, they need to be able to rate
But why
quickly.
don't you put it out there? We did something.
Well, I would do it as a charrette, that's what we do. We'd have a big board and people would come and,
Why can't we make it a part of a city council meeting?
Have a what?
Make it a part
because
of a
this
city
is
council
about
meeting.
y'all knowing your priorities. This isn't about people coming in from Tioga to tell us what we need to do. This is about your priorities. I can't, that's too,
Put it in the front
you're
office.
doing your town halls to get that, to tell us what you want programmed. That's why. Your town hall is to do that.
Put it in the front. Can we put it in your
Please.
office? Put it up in the front? Or put it back here in the conference room?
No, but this is for y'all to be there, but we don't have to do it. I'm just trying to think of, we're gonna give you what Tanya's recommendation is. I approve that I made one switch to make, Helen Black,
What is that
Am I
pork
saying
up
that right?
third? What is that called?
to make it number one. It was flipped the other way when she gave it to me.
Charles was my number one.
Yeah, Charles Smith was her number one. I flipped it.
What is
to
that
make-
park up a third called?
Ellen Black.
Lincoln Park.
Yeah, that's on the immediate list too.
By
But look, the three we just did, we want to go spend significant money to get this right. One of the deals I made was, we're not doing anything half you know what. It's all, I'd rather it take a little longer and done right than
What's
the
the time
typical
frame?
politician's way of spread, oh, we'll do a tiny thing here and there, and nothing's right. It needs to be impactful.
Okay.
What's the time frame for all of this?
We're gonna start recrafting that page for y'all to trade out immediately. We'll have it well before the 8th.
We'll stick in the amendment.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like you purchasing the equipment.
Well, I'm gonna give you a copy of this now, and y'all can look at the study and tell me what you think. I think it should be this page. Helen Black, Charles Smith, Franco Hunter, and I think I've gotta just get Tanya to add up.
So with those, would those be able to be used at the meeting next Monday?
These I can tell them now on this page,
I identified 6, the ones that I wrote out beside.
right here.
Neighborhood.
So here's what she has. Franco Hunter, 361,000. Cheatham, 200, so this is the new list, not just three. This is the reignite list. Franco Hunter, 361,651.50 cents. I'm gonna round up on the rest. Cheatham, 290,000. Helen Black, 272.
Okay.
Is this Bringhurst or Harmon?
The city park, they called it Bringhurst.
Bringhurst, 449,000. Charles Smith, 397,000.
That's over there off of.
Deborah Bowman, 375,000. So that's 2.1 million.
No,
We'll
that's in.
engineer out
that's in
400,000.
Harris Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be a right now. That does not mean in major budget things that we can't program other stuff if you didn't hear your district. This is to make a commitment to go out and reignite and start some things now. It doesn't stop you from doing things later. Y'all control your capital budget.
We know.
Doesn't do anything bad. It just says, let's agree and move on
It
these.
sets it sets the $1.6 million into the budget.
That's what we're doing.
Okay, it allows, there will not be final decisions unless y'all make the final
Right.
decision.
You gotta adopt
But
the
it
amendment.
appropriates
Yeah.
the money.
We'll start
And-
with amendment.
And y'all
Yes,
can always
and
move the money around. If something costs 300 and you thought it was gonna be 200, you can move
Money
the
around.
money.
Or if we got a grant or something happen and
And we
make
can
your
talk
budget.
about it.
Yeah, you got time to think.
Yeah, well, it's not
But it does put
it's
it
not
in
gonna
the
be-
Park on the
It's not
Main
gonna be
Street.
decided tonight, but that's a great idea.
Like in between
That's a great idea.
Chester and Texas.
Let's go ahead and move on.
What's the park on Monroe? I'm, the name
On
is
the road.
That's
trip.
Harmon.
Harmon.
Between Monroe
Oh,
and
yes.
11.
That's the one.
That's a big,
Yeah.
And that's the one that's been having a problem with the splash pads
grew up
being
there,
stolen.
Yeah, that's the one that we gotta really think about. We need to do something special, but we need to do
And
something
Bolton Ave-
smart.
Yeah.
And something on Bolton Avenue too, right?
All right, Mayor. let's-
All right, we ready? All right, so,
Yeah, I gotta meet.
go back to, where were we?
161.
Move my finger.
We're on 190.
190, 191, we look at parks and the zoo.
I don't care what it is, as long as we get it done.
Mr. Johnson, you're on page 191,
Uh-huh,
the zoo.
right.
So what we covered on page 190 was, we just solved your recreation thing for the moment, Madam President. All the
Everybody.
previous stuff was there. On the zoo, there's a new 500, new money that I left. Again, I think that to some people's surprise, we got to do something. Malcolm, we talked about it yesterday. We have to make this the thing. We got to have tigers. We've always had tigers. We have to get tigers back. This is insane, and we're not gonna if we don't do something. And
Didn't want no tigers.
We need tigers, lions, and bears.
Want them enclosed safely, yeah.
like Chris Rock said, when the person got bit by the tiger, said the tiger went crazy and bit him, and Chris Rock said, the tiger didn't go crazy, the tiger went tiger.
Tiger with tiger.
What they do.
Tiger do.
So we gotta have that, I think, and that's a critical one. We left 916 zoo improvements from them. I'm sure they were shocked we left. This is probably the first time in decades where they've sent a capital request and there were no changes, and maybe some additions. I think it's important because we have a new director. We cannot send the message that we don't care. It also will fit in Reignite. If we go out, we pass a renewal, we get our stuff together, this is gonna be part of that Masonic corridor that 3 districts join in the heart of the city, and we make a real central part. We got our CSOs that will be patrolling. We're really thinking through how to make this work. No more needles. You know, we're gonna have people in those parks. Okay, so that was the zoo. That's my sell. I'm normally letting y'all just think on the zoo yourselves, but I think you leave it. I think that's important. All right.
193 begins a 5-year in the utility division with electric.
We gave Marcus more to eat because he needs it.
Oh, yes. He was getting kind of thin. And then on page 194 is water. A little bit of activity there. 195 is gas. $196 is wastewater. $197 is the other category, which basically is activities, the utility capital projects that don't fall into the 4 main services.
The GPS, just for I see the GIS system, GPS equipment.
Yes, sir.
What's that? Just
Tracking on cars?
Mayor, you want me to?
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, GIS has historically been in utilities, it's now
We need
moving
to.
towards planning, but
We need to.
what this pays for is, every 2 years, we have a flyover for the city. And one section, the engineering department will pay for, and the other flyover we will pay for, but it also includes flying over the Cassatt well field and all of our infrastructure that's outside the city. We also use this funding to update, our utility maps, our drawings, those type of things. There's something else we may end up bringing to the council that involves, it's like the Google van, it rides around the city, but it's high resolution and it does a lot more functions for our GIS system. And it's used for drainage, streets, utilities, and that's something else we haven't decided whether we're going that way, but it is something that we may bring to the council later that would come out of that account. But that's what that account's generally used for.
The GPS on vehicles, that's operating. We have that, but that's paid for through the operating budgets of the departments that have the vehicles. And then
Council members, I'm going to give this to Emily. It's got some handwritten notes. I can't tell if that's my handwriting or someone else's. But just as proof of our bona fides, that we mean what we say, that's pure expenditure in capital for me since coming back. I think you'll find that where we spent money is properly spread out and beneficial to your districts, so that you know we're serious. But that's just for y'all to look at. I haven't made that today.
Mr. Johnson, you might want to note that among your capital appropriations is going from $4 million on page 196 for wastewater. Y'all mentioned it earlier, but the actual sum is probably important. Wastewater needs
I had a headache, I'm so.
needs a lot of work. And this is citywide, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Wait before you go, Bob, please. Page 196,
Yes, sir.
812101, Marie Street Sewer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We thought you might ask.
Thank God y'all did. No, I'm just glad y'all started before I got back up here. I brought it up. I just want people to know. It was done before I came. That's okay. I'll be glad when it's completed. But anyway, thank you. It's well needed. That street is just dying, dipping, and sinking everywhere. So I used to tell Mr. Silver, I don't know why people want to fly them down Marie Street. They tear Rolls Royce up.
Elliott Street's looking good too.
It is.
And that runs through, that is a major thoroughfare for Jackson Street relief.
Yeah.
Somebody does, Mayor, that's your street, you go down there, that's why you did it. I was like, nope, that's not why I did it, but I'm happy. I drive it every day.
Same here.
Yes, 198 concludes it. That's bus. And that's the end of it.
Okay. I think the next question is, when do we get our projects in for this year?
May 1st.
May 1st? Okay.
Yes, sir. That's
Well, that's when the budget comes in.
Yeah, so
Michael, you give this
we gotta
back
get
to
out.
Brian.
So anything you have that's not on here, that you want to add, just write it.
Oh, to that point.
Yeah.
Mayor,
So any projects that we need, any new projects that we need to add before the May 1st?
Oh, to get now?
To get now.
In this budget?
Yes.
Well, it's gonna convert too soon. So if you do what we just did with the 1/6, then we're gonna be locked pretty rough into what we just did. Tell me what you're thinking. You have something on your mind
Yeah, so
specifically.
when you're coming down Horseshoe from Kenneth Notes, and we discussed this, me and I don't know if David was there, but on the side of Horseshoe, you're coming back towards Martin Park. Man, the grooves on the side of the road, you can see where it's just corrosion.
The grooves?
No, not grooves, but the side, if you accidentally drive off the side.
The shoulders.
The shoulders, it's just tore up, I mean.
I think we traded it. I think I traded it to take Sugar House.
I thought we did that.
It's bad.
Didn't they just overlay that?
Probably not the road,
That's what the state.
but I don't know if they just overlaid
That's the
that.
state of the city.
That's the city.
That's the
I
city.
think that's the city.
It is,
I
that's
made
what
a
we
trade.
traded for Horseshoe.
David, you were gonna call.
I took Horseshoe, which it was substandard, but we took Horseshoe to make our Sugar House deal. So that doesn't have to be a full, we'll work on that
Yes.
internally for a minute, and if it does,
We can stay for it.
It just drops off. Different spots just drops off all the way from, so, and I sent pictures.
Yeah.
Kay has pictures. And it's
I
not,
went on the side bad.
so you're looking at a lot of busted tires and busted radiators and everything. It's bad.
My sister was on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I got that.
Okay, and while we talking, over in, Masura, the end of Masura, that road, that little 200-yard road, street is like been just tore up for years. If you're coming through Masura and then you're coming back toward the highway,
They're
Yeah.
going to that project as soon as they finish that.
They already got that. They already got that?
Yeah, it's on the list.
Okay,
All right.
but that one back horseshoe, that's.
Let's
one-
get these out of the way, because if I've got them in another pocket I can use, we don't have
Yeah.
to change a budget. I want to
Yeah.
get it out the way. What
They're
else?
supposed to start that
Uh-huh.
as soon as they finish that Bluebird, Bruins.
Okay,
When's that gonna be finished?
They're at 85%.
85?
and those shoulders, what are we looking at? That shouldn't be a lot of money. If you just write down.
We're gonna talk to the street department about
Yeah.
that again. I thought they were gonna go look at it.
I think they did.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, we got
Different spots. But, I think this was one of the better, reviews that we had in my 3 years here. Great job, everyone. And I know that Cynthia is so hungry, I hear her stomach growling over here. So, that's it. But not.
I got another meeting to go to.
But to be the, be the drum.